The following is an exclusive presentation of HD Net Sports.
The essence of the Little 500 is timeless.
You can feel the excitement.
Nothing matches it. They can't capture the energy.
Dynasties rise and fall, but legacies are forever. For 60 years, the Little 500 has thrilled and inspired.
60 years later, people are still interested. 60 years later, it continues to progress. It continues to grow.
It is something that has just gotten bigger and bigger and, quite frankly, better and better.
You are part of such history and such tradition, and it all kind of comes together when you step on the track on race day.
It's just a euphoric feeling. If you want to talk about a high, it's a high.
The very first win went to the South Hall Buccaneers in 1951.
It's Cutters picking him up and laying him down.
6 decades later, the storied Cutters aim to do something never done before, winning 4 straight Little Fives. Few have been fortunate enough to taste the sweetness of victory. But even for the thousands who have felt the sting of defeat, the experience was not only worth it, but simply unforgettable.
When you walk in and see the kids and the excitement, it all comes back.
You feel like you're coming home when you come to Bloomington in April.
It is unlike any experience or sporting event you will ever go to.
I have no doubt that 60 years from now, it'll still be every bit as amazing.
Citizens of Indiana have racing in their fabric, and it gets passed on through generations. And the biggest collegiate bike race in the country takes place at the state's flagship university. The 60th edition of the Little 500 will begin under threatening skies here in Bloomington. We welcome you to IU. Rich Tellini alongside Dylan Casey and Jason Sonnenborn. Dylan, you raced around the world. You raced with Lance Armstrong and company on the United States Postal Team, but this is a unique event.
Oh, absolutely. You know, besides the pending weather and possible thunder and lightning storms, you could feel the electricity in the air from the fans, the students, and especially the athletes. It's going to be a great event.
Jason, you're a former all-star rider in this event and proud IU alum. This is a bigger weekend than just the Little 500.
Yeah, it really is. It's about students getting involved in intramural events. That's why this was founded. So it's bringing students out of their houses, out of their dormitories, and we're rallying around a bike race this weekend. It's also about scholarships. We've raised over $1 million in student scholarships through this race.
As big as this weekend is, it's hard to imagine that 60 years ago, Howdy Wilcox had to come up with an idea to put a bike race together between a pair of dorms, and even the most hopeful Hoosier could not have imagined what the Little 500 has become.
In 1951, Howdy Wilcox, the newly appointed executive director of the IU Foundation, was looking for a way to generate buzz on campus and generate money for scholarships. That spring, he stumbled on an impromptu bike race between 2 dorms. The spectacle gave him an idea. Why not stage a bike relay race modeled after the Indy 500? In May of 1951, the Little 500 was born. The South Hall Buccaneers earned the distinction of winning the very first running. Don Button rode in that race for Phi Kappa Psi.
We had bicycles with balloon tires, and it wasn't near the highly skilled race that it is today.
Since that first race, the idea has remained constant. 33 teams, 50 laps, identical bikes, all on a cinder track.
And there's an element of danger. There's crashes.
Oh, the crashes.
The crashes. Well,
I had some fabulous accidents.
I went flying. Down I went.
I had my face planted in the track.
Everybody's scrambling around not to hit you.
Cinders made it quite uncomfortable to shave.
I've got cinders in my knees and my shoulder.
Everybody's always tasted cinders at the Little 500. The mustache has been here from my initial cycling days.
In 1955, the women got their own race of sorts. It was a tricycle race called the Mini 500. Ladies sported the trikes until 1988, when they got their own Little 5 race. 60 years ago, Howdy Wilcox never could have imagined how many lives his idea would touch. Since that day, more than $1.5 million have been awarded in the form of scholarships.
Well, gentlemen, that's a fitting piece talking about history, because the Cutters can become the first ever 4-time winning team in this event. Who can challenge them this year?
Okay, great question, Rich. I like Phi Delta Theta. The last time there was a 3-time champion in this race, it was Delta Chi, 1979, 80, and 81. Today, and then in 1982, Phi Delta Theta upset them for the win. So today, Phi Delta Theta could repeat history and upset the Cutters. I like their chances.
And a look at our top 5 qualifiers throughout the spring. How tough is it to be the marked team? The Cutters have done an excellent job the last 3 years, back to back to back.
They certainly have. They have a great reputation, a huge legacy. They've got the success. Now they have the responsibility of taking on the race. I think they're going to really control it from the front, and they've got a guy that they're saving for the sprint. I was down in the pit talking with them earlier today. I think they're really motivated for this race.
We look at the back-to-back-to-back victories here. I guess what might be most intimidating to the rest of the field today, gentlemen, is that all 4 riders from a year ago returned.
All 4 riders are back, Rich, and Eric Young, who finished the race for the Cutters, he's back. He's a big man on campus of sorts, and they're scared to sprint against him.
They have unique training. They have an outstanding tradition. They are not a fraternity, but we could call them a fraternity of excellence. The Cutters have indeed been a cut above over the past decade.
It's Cutters picking them up and laying them down for back-to-back wins for the first time, the most decorated team ever. The Cutters win it.
The Cutters have only been around for a fraction of the Little Five 60-year history, but for those 25 years, they have defined dominance. This year's team has the chance to do something never done before in Little 500 history, but they're giving in to the old sports cliche and taking it one race at a time.
On any given race day, there's a set of circumstances that you can't possibly predict, and when you begin to believe that you're entitled to win, you begin to have problems.
The Cutters owe much of their recent success to Coach Jim Kirkham, who raced for the team and won in 1992.
Today's practice, we're doing a long set day. We take one day a year and do a high number of laps, more than you would in practice or the race. Just kind of push your own physical boundaries, learn how to save energy, but still riding at race pace.
In addition to Kirkham's precise training plan, the other key for success has been in the development of young riders, so that as seniors graduate, there's always someone to fill their role.
And I've been told that if I wanted to ride, I should ride with the Cutters, mainly because they're the best. And I'm learning a lot more than all these other kids on the track with these guys and with this team.
Despite their focus on the present, the Cutters never ignore their own illustrious past or the legacy of the Little 500.
There's just so much tradition, just centralized around Little 500 and this team.
With a victory today, the Cutters own a piece of history. But for them, win or lose, the ride has been well worth it.
Our ultimate race goal was to ride the hardest race that you can and to own your race. So it doesn't come down to a win or lose.
You get enjoyment, not really from winning, but from trying your best. And we've all put in so much work together this year that, this year is already a success.
Quad Cities. Well, the skies may present a little bit more of a challenge for the Cutters. No rain as of yet, but a system moving our way as we get ready for our national anthem, which will be sung by Casey Jamerson, a country recording artist.
Please greet Casey Jamerson. Casey is a country recording artist from Pendleton, Indiana. She released her first CD at the age of 16. Casey toured the Midwest the past 2 summers and has performed in front of thousands. Casey has shared the stage with some of country music's biggest stars, Tracy Lawrence and Blake Shelton included. We are happy to have Casey here today as we honor America with Casey Jamerson presenting our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. still there? Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Anticipation building and the stands filling in for the 60th running of the Little 500.
You are not in the infield and not officially credentialed as a participant or official.
And the man who will say the words all riders have been waiting for is Fred Glass, the athletic director here at IU.
We welcome to the stage, ladies and gentlemen, Indiana University President Michael McRobbie, his wife, Dr. Laura McRobbie, and the Executive Vice President and Provost of the Bloomington campus, Dr. Karen Hansen. Here now, ladies and gentlemen, for the starters command. He is the Vice President and Director of Athletics, a big fan of the Little 500 and Indiana University, Mr. Fred Glass.
Riders, ride smart. Keep your heads up. Good luck and Godspeed. And now, the words for which we've all been waiting. Gentlemen, mount your Schwinn bicycles.
And with that, we are moments away from the start of the race. And since we're in Indiana, just down the road from Indianapolis, of course we'll have a pace car in this race, and that's not by accident.
Absolutely not. You know, they don't call it the Little 500 for nothing. There's definitely an element of the Indianapolis 500 car race that has had a huge impact on this event, and it's great to see such a close connection.
We saw a little bit of the history earlier with Howdy Wilcox, right? And his dad was a winner of the Indianapolis 500. And I guess rumor has it that he was looking out of his dorm room, you know, in the late 40s, early 50s, and saw some students out on the campus whipping around campus on their bicycles. And that was his inspiration to start the Little 500.
And what an event it has become as we look at our starting grid. Row one.
So up front, you've got the Cutters, obvious favorite coming in. Phi Kappa Psi, you've also got to like their chances. They've won the race multiple times, a lot in the 1970s. They've got all returning riders and 2 guys in the top 5 in ITTs. Good chances today for Phi Kappa Psi. And in the second row, you got to like all these teams are strong. I think Phi Delta Theta has the best chance. They're wearing white today because they're the overall points winners in the Spring Series events.
On to row 3, Black Key Bulls, predominantly strong as well.
Black Key Bulls have had great showings in the last couple races. I was down there in the pit with them earlier today, and they're very amped up and excited to race today.
You know, even these teams starting down in the 5th and 6th, 7th rows are going to be really focused on trying to get to the front right away. We know from yesterday's race how important it is to start at the front, how to work your way to the front and stay out of the crashes that inevitably happen in the opening laps of the race.
Emanon is an interesting story. That is Alpha Tau Omega's former team. The fraternity is no longer on campus. The guys still wanted to race, represent their house in a way, so they've entered as an independent team this year. Dodds House, great history at Dodds House. A dormitory on campus, won the race in 1998, participated in every single race. I look for them to win the Dixie Highway Award today and move the farthest up from the start to the finish.
That's right.
It's called the Little 500. Take me through the specifics of the race. 200 laps and the exchanges as well.
Rich, we've got 200 laps on this quarter-mile cinder track. It's going to be a 50-mile race today. I think the fastest time was just over 2 hours. 4 riders on the track, single-speed bikes. Exchanges are the most unique thing about this event. You're going to see a lot of exchanges throughout the day. Each team has 2 bikes, and so they'll be exchanging their bikes and coming in and out of the pits.
You know, this race actually has some elements of what's called the Madison, which is an event that happens on the track at the Olympics, and that's where the riders basically have a team of riders that are going in and out of the race. Of course, Madison is from the Madison Square Gardens, where that event first started back in the early 30s.
Well, this is an event that those who participate in it never forget their experience, and we are happy to have one of the all-time great riders as the fourth member of our broadcast teams. Here's Hans Arneson.
Thanks, guys. It's always a lot of fun to be here every year. This morning when I was walking down, going from pit to pit, talking to the riders and the coaches, everybody knows that the Cutters are the favorites by and far. They've won the past 3 years. They're going for a record 4, and they know that they've got the best sprinter on the track, Eric Young. He'll win 9 times out of 10 if it comes down to a sprint. So they don't want to make it a sprint. They want to race. The other teams want to race and make something happen before that. But it's no surprise that the Cutters are expecting that. So they've got a strategy to try to mix it up. Looking for fireworks to happen before the final sprint today. It should be exciting.
Thank you, Hans, as they make their way to turn 4, and we're about ready to get the 60th running of the Little 500 underway.
And there we have the green flag. It's basically a sprint for the first lap because all the riders in the back want to move up to the front. Cutters taking control of the race immediately.
Cutters starting up front because they qualified first this year. We're in the yellow jersey as well as qualifying first, so the green jersey's not in the event this year. It's Clayton Feldman on the bike for the Cutters. Phi Kappa Psi sitting second, Grey Goat Cycling in third, Phi Delta Theta comfortably in fourth, the team in white. Oh, and you can see Fiji moved up real quick, team number 11.
Indeed they did.
Yeah, and you can see the riders going wide because they're trying to work their way around to the front. They're also taking the longest way around the track. And in fact, the edge of the track is outside the groove. It's a little bit sketchy out there, especially early laps of the race. The cinders haven't been packed down yet, so it's a little bit dangerous out there.
Phi Kappa Psi out in front, Grey Goat Cycling in second, and the Cutters in third spot.
It's a little bit like, you've raced in Europe, Dylan, it's a little bit like in Roubaix, when you see them riding off to the side of the cobbles, they're looking for that smooth section of dirt. The track's somewhat like that. 5 to 10 feet from the gutter, you get a nice hard-packed surface. You get out too far, and it's a little bit like cobbles. It could be bobbly, but instead it's here at cinders.
That's right, and you see the riders kind of signaling to each other, okay, I've done my turn, now you come through. The idea there is they don't want to do all the work. They want to stay at the front. They want to kind of maintain their top 5 position. You'll see the rider from Grey Goat Cycling kind of pull back in there.
And talk to the idea of being within that pack in the draft and what that does to you as a rider.
Well, when you're sitting on the wheel, you're saving about 30% energy, and especially on the track where you have a headwind, tailwind section, there's actually some strategy to when you pull and when you sit in. Again, also we mentioned that the riders that are on the pole, kind of pulling at the front, are taking the shortest way around, whereas all the other guys that are fanned out at the back of the pack are trying to work their way around.
Phi Gamma Delta at the lead spot, now overtaken by Grey Goat Cycling.
There we go. You see Renjay Shea on the bike for Black Key Bulls. He's not leaving anything to chance. He wants his face time, and he's also on the front where he's got the least risk really of a wreck. He's out there driving it.
Well, none of these teams want it to come down to a sprint because Cutters has proven themselves so much on that last lap finish. So it's up to the other teams to make it hard. That actually puts the Cutters in a good position because all they have to do is follow. They get to sit second, third wheel, save it for the finish, but they have to pay attention, make sure that they don't miss out on any moves, watch out for the crashes, really time their exchanges well so that they're using the whole team and not burning up one guy versus the rest.
And I've thought a lot about this today. I've been down in the pits, and I think this is the year of a fraternity or of a dorm. As great as it be to see the Cutters pick up their 4th, the other teams are starting to catch on. And, so you have to think that Fiji, Phi Gamma Delta, the Phi Delta Theta, they'll be working together and try to take out our favorites.
Oh, absolutely. They could look for a key opportunity when the Cutters do an exchange. Maybe 2 or 3 of the other teams band together and really drill it hard and make it hard for the Cutters to get back on.
It was ironic. A year ago, we saw the Cutters crash twice. And you think that, geez, are you going to be able to overcome that within a Little 500 race? And they did, and then some.
It's about persistence, really, in this event. And things are going to happen that you don't expect. Wrecks are going to happen. Penalties are going to happen. It's about how you react to those, and that's what the Cutters did so well last year.
Clean start to the 60th edition of the Little 500.
You know, you can see a rider there at the top of your screen kind of chasing on. It looks like he had a mechanical early in the race. It's really up to him right now to get his team back into the race. And it's going to be hard because these opening laps are so fast, right? As these teams, they're fresh. The guys are, you know, anxious to get at the front.
Everybody starts their best rider, so that's why they're drilling it, they're punching it, they're saying, let's go full gas right out of the gate. And so you'll see that 32, 35, 36-second lap. Right now you can see Phi Delta Theta, Nick Savinsky on the bike for them. He's out there driving it. Phi Gamma Delta in second.
So in case you're wondering, the little colored tape on all of the riders' helmets is so that we know who's who. Each team has 4 riders. They're all wearing the same jerseys. They're riding the same bikes. Some of them even look almost the same. They have the same size. So that's what helps us kind of understand who's who out there.
Dylan, we've delegated you as our expert, resident expert at knowing all the riders' colors, right?
Absolutely.
It's that California education that you got. You're bringing it right back here.
Yeah, not too much sun. Yeah, and that's definitely the story today, in addition to the race, is the weather.
And we've got our first crash at the back of the pack, just past the start-finish line.
And you can see kind of it's the reaction time. It's how quickly you get back on your bike. Unfortunately, team number 33, that's Cycling for Freedom. Great name. He's taking a little bit longer to get up. You got to think about safety right now. There he is. He's back on the bike. That's good to see.
Here's a look at the crash. Looks like somebody just tangled up on the outside there, and you just see that have that ripple effect. Again, this is why you have to ride at the front. Statistically, most crashes like that happen towards the back of the field. You also get this bunching up effect, and since the riders don't have brakes on their, you know, the really easy to use brakes, they don't have a time to react.
Absolute carnage. We had a guy on his top tube here. Team number 30.
Yeah, so it looked like Team 30, what he did is he overlapped wheels with the rider in front of him, and what happens when you do that is you essentially lose your balance.
Lambda Kai, the one who lost control and came out unscathed.
You've really got to rely on your teammates. You saw the young man chasing back on, so you have a little adversity. You don't give up, and he's going to try to chase back on and get back in the field, finish with the best performance they can.
Grey Goat now passed up by Black Key Bulls, and the Cutters just hanging tight, staying in that second to third slot throughout this race.
Oh, you've got to like the way Black Key Bulls is riding right now. They're riding hungry. They have yet to win this race, and you can see him put a little acceleration in off the front.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if he's coming in for an exchange or is he actually trying to drill it right now. Cutters is a little bit off the wheel, but again, you know, he's in really good position to just maintain his position at the front, not use a bunch of extra energy.
And Shea's indeed going to bring it in for an exchange.
So we're 10 laps in. You can see teams are starting to exchange. That's on the shorter side of a first set. We'll see how the other riders react and see how long of a first set we get out of these first riders, which are typically a lot of the best riders. Phi Delta Theta is next.
Shea off the bike for Black Key Bulls. Miss is on.
That's Savinsky on the bike for Phi Delta. He looks so comfortable, really. Huge gap. Flat back, he's got a very, very flat back. He's just motoring along the front stretch. Huge gap. And Phi side queuing off of them.
Yeah, it looks like they're both coming in to do an exchange. This is a really good idea because then both teammates can work together to make contact with the field. That was a great exchange. He puts them right back in at the front.
And the 4-man race today, Phi Delta Theta.
Great set for Nicholas Savinsky. I know a little bit about him. He grew up in Bloomington, and rumor had it he'd be out training at Wapahani, which is a mountain bike park, on his Roadmaster.
Yeah, it's clear that these guys look for all types of different ways to really gain an advantage.
I said Roadmaster, I'm a couple years old. Now they're racing on Schwinn. We've had a number of bike sponsors throughout the years. Started with Schwinn, then Roadmaster, Mongoose, and we're back on Schwinn.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting to note that the bikes actually say the 60th running on the decals on the top tube. It's pretty great to see Schwinn put out such great support for the event.
Beta Theta with the clean exchange.
The Phi Gams, there they go at a huge gap, breaking it up. Team number 11, you saw him going to turn 3. Cutters on a chase.
So what's interesting is a lot of teams right now are doing exchanges. The pace is really high because as these teams come out of the peloton to do an exchange, they actually pick up the pace, which has an effect on the main peloton because everybody's trying to go fast and keep up. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Cutters controls this. They haven't done an exchange yet. They're probably just looking to sit in while all the other teams are doing their exchanges. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
And folks, what you can know at home right now is these guys are going full gas. When you see it strung out like that, mouth out, tongues out, these guys are going full gas, over 120 RPMs. They're drilling it.
13, team number 2, 14, Mike Abadoza, team number 11, 15, Right Cycling, team number 17.
It's Adam Mercer on the bike for Phi Kappa Psi. Great spring series for Adam Mercer. He's got a 4th place result in ITTs. He's showing it out there today.
$15 of 200 completed in our early leaderboard.
And we have team number 3, Grey Goat Cycling, setting up for...
Grey Goat Cycling with an exchange.
You see, this is a rider exchange. They're going to keep the same bike. It means they're close in seat height. They can keep that same bike. Good exchange for them. Looked really good there for Grey Goat.
Keel off the bike for Grey Goat.
Yeah, you know, Grey Goat gets put right back in there at the back of the bunch. Doesn't have to use a bunch of energy.
I don't know if this is any cue for how the race is going to go, but Black Key Bulls is really establishing themselves right now as a leader in this race. So, same with Phi Kappa Psi, Cutters, Phi Delta Theta, just riding hard on the front. They're really pounding, drilling the laps right now.
That's team number 2, Phi Kappa Psi, followed by the Cutters, team number 1.
Yeah, so you see Clayton from the Cutters. He's still sitting there, second wheel. Hasn't done any exchanges yet. So far, this race is unfolding exactly how they want it. They're not using a bunch of extra energy. All the other teams are the ones that are doing the exchanges. They're the ones doing all the work, pulling on the front. Clayton is sitting in comfortably right there. Probably using less energy than if they were trying to do a bunch of exchanges.
Feldman has already won 2 little 500s. This is final race, his senior year at IU. Can join elite company, participating in 3 races, and walking away with 3 victories if the Cutters can claim another one, which would be their 4th straight if they're victorious in 2010.
But another independent team, Black Key Bulls, they're hungry and they're punching it from the front. That's Jordan Bailey on the bike for them. He's coming off of a collegiate triathlon, national championships for triathlon. He's here. He did that last week and he's here racing Little 5. He's got some fitness.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we see Stephen Quay get pushed back in there. What do you think the strategy is right now by Black Key Bulls doing so many exchanges?
Okay, so they're coached by Isaac Neff, a good friend of mine. He did the alumni race this morning. He absolutely just punished himself in the alumni race. So their philosophy is to race hard. You know, what they're going to try to do is just make the other teams hurt, mix it up, and eliminate some of the other teams.
So it looks like Clayton's going to come in and do the first exchange for the Cutters.
See, it's a rider exchange. That's Michael Schroeder getting on the bike for them.
Schroeder on the bike for the Cutters.
Clayton did 20 laps. Schroeder put right back in there. He's got to do a little bit of an effort to get back onto the back of the peloton there. But you know what? A great exchange. Cutters so far riding a textbook race.
Getting to get cooled off. You know, we've got humid temperature today, really, in Bloomington.
Yeah, again, you know, the backstory is what's going to happen with the weather. We actually had to push up the start of the race so that we could actually get a full 100 laps in to make this an official event.
We're going to step aside and take our first break. We are underway, the 60th running of the Little 500 in Bloomington. Back with more racing following this timeout.
I rode in the Little 500 in 1951 and 1952. We got third place, and I remember I got a little portable radio. Each member of our team got a little portable radio. And I'll never forget the hard work that was done by my teammates.
And in 1957, it was a tight race with 13, 14, 15 laps to go. We had a slight lead, and I took the bike and decided no more exchanges. I was going to finish the race, and so we won the race that year. It was a very nice feeling to finally win and to cross that finish line.
Wonderful memories here at the Little 500. 70 degrees right now, 90% humidity. And the most concerning number, that 90% of thunderstorms moving our way. We can race through rain. The concern is lightning.
Well, yeah, you know, we're going to really see the investment of the crowd here if it starts raining. I have a feeling nobody's going to leave to miss the action that's going to happen. Again, Cutters, perfect position, second wheel, not doing any work.
I'm really feeling that one of the reasons the race is so fast right now is I think a lot of people are anticipating the rain. They know we need to get 100 laps to have it be official, but after 100, they can stop, the officials can stop the race at any time for safety reasons. So you want to be on the lead at that point in time, there's no question.
27 laps in. Let's get some early race thoughts from our man down on the track. Here's Hans.
I'm in front of Black Key Bulls pit, and I've seen their coach Isaac flashing the sign, keep it fast, make it faster. They're on the front doing a lot of work right now, but they want to make this an aggressive race. I talked to a number of teams before the race, and they really feel like the past few years have been pretty conservative, and the race has come down to a sprint. The general consensus is these teams don't want it to be a sprint this year, so they're working really hard right now to set the pace early.
Thank you, Hans. And the Cutters do an exchange.
Yeah, not the best exchange. They got caught up in traffic there. You know, you see he's got about a 20-meter gap he's going to have to close right now. And if the other teams, and you know, the other teams are really drilling it right now, and that's going to really make it hard for the Cutters to remake contact with the back of the peloton. The only thing that's going to help him is there's a bunch of traffic in the back that he can kind of use to leapfrog his way back up there.
Yeah, I think the strategy is working to perfection right now. What I see the other teams doing is trying to make it as hard of a race as they can, just like Hans said, and I think they're successful at it. The guys are running around 34-second laps, which means they're moving over 25 miles per hour.
Black Key Bulls continuing to drive the front of the pack.
Renjay just punching it, burying himself. He's really listening to his coach. He's invested a lot in what his coach is saying right now. That's Sigma Chi on a chase. You know, Renjay's an interesting story for me. He grew up and went to Bloomington North. He started riding when he was about 14 or 15 years old. You see him out on group rides. I think all that endurance, all that fitness is starting to pay off for him.
Yeah, Black Key Bulls doing an exchange right there.
Jordan Bailey on the bike. We've got a little mishap in the back of the pack.
He's going to jump back on its bikes and stay loose. But, you know, you see Cutters back at the front there. Phi Delta Theta chasing. He's going to, hey, come on, give me some work here. Phi Deltas have no interest in helping.
Last look at what went wrong, and Cutters just escaping the fray.
You know, and that's really, it can make the difference between winning and losing. And he just held his position and was...
Well, you can see those jacked up arms on Eric Young. You know, he looked really strong with the bike there. He had to react, and he got outside out of the saddle and just made it happen.
And with all that, look who's right back in the thing.
It's going to be tough to get rid of a guy like Eric Young. You know, he's won our individual time trials this year. He won the race last year. You just know he's going to be on every move. The other teams will know that, and they'll cue. And what they'll try to do is when Eric's off the bike, or when Clayton Feldman, one of the more senior riders on the Cutters, is off the bike, that's when you'll see the accelerations. That's when you'll see it try to pick up and just string it out.
He's looking to his coach for some input. Coach is probably telling him, hey, everything's good, sit in, don't use a bunch of energy. Pay attention to the other teams, let Black Key Bulls do all the work. Let Phi Delta Theta do all the work. You're fine sitting third, fourth wheel, no problem. You know, it's really interesting. You know, we're only 32 laps into this race, and the lead field is already down to about 12 teams, which is surprising.
It's a race of elimination, really. And since it's track racing, we have 200 laps, we have 50 miles. You're trying to eliminate as many teams each lap as you can with this just brutal pace that the guys have established early on. I think they're starting to shed a lot of teams. So Ericsson in a unique place because he's a sprinter at heart, and he established that last year, so he really doesn't want to expend too much energy on the front right now, but he does want to control the race, and he had that little mishap early. Again, safest place to ride is on the front, and he's doing that well right now.
It was an explosion a year ago to win that race from Eric Young.
Huge gap between the second place finishing team. It wasn't even close.
Remember, Dylan had called it on the backside. This race is over.
Well, you know, especially last year because we had such a big tailwind going down the back section that once you get that gap, it's really hard to make up ground when you come out of turn 3 or go into turn 3 and come out of turn 4.
In the wind today, it's relatively calm, but we've got a little bit of wind on the front stretch, which increases the chances of somebody being able to pass coming out of turn 4. It's unlikely, but it's happened, and a little bit of headwind could do that.
Sigma Chi with an exchange.
There's Phi Delta Theta and White. They're going to look to reestablish contact with the peloton.
Yeah, you know, he's gonna get right up to the rider from Sigma Chi and say, hey, come on, why don't we work together to regain contact with the field.
You can see a lot of our Beta Theta Pi chasing. Looks like they're going in for an exchange, rather.
Team number 12, Delta Chi scored in 24th. That's a look at our field at this point.
They'll hand that off. Eric Anderson back on the bike. Now, one of the key components of this race is the 10 exchanges you have to do. Some teams do it better than others.
And a completed exchange is a good exchange. Here you can see two, those are bike-to-bike exchanges. And this is a rider exchange here. Well done. Right hand out, picks it up on the stem. Again, from Grego, well executed. It's a leap of faith, Dylan, with the jumping on the bike.
No question, trusting a lot to the saddle there.
You're gonna get another view.
You know, against it, just traffic, you know, it just creates chaos. That's why position, which box you're in, has such an important impact on the exchanges and how well you're going to do in the race.
It's all about communication. So if you're thinking about riding the Little 500, know if you're going to step out on the track, you have to communicate with the other teams around you. And I think in the last one, which was a botched exchange, we didn't see that element of communication.
Yeah, that's right. A little bit of communication going on out there between the riders.
Some of the bumping and another little mishap.
Oh, and that was Phi Delta Theta, team in white. That's, you know, one of our favorites. That was really tight, Dylan. If you're not rubbing, it's not racing.
That's right. You know, that's just part of bike racing, and this is definitely having an impact on today's race.
With all the bumps we've seen this afternoon, the consistent part has been our favorites have been able to get out and escape and not get caught up in any of the wash.
But just barely. You know, it's just a matter of inches. We saw Eric Young do it. We saw Phi Delta Theta pull around. Just keeping it up, rubber side down. You see the Phi Delta Theta's out looking for an exchange.
Black Key Bulls as well.
You know, and it's smart for these teams to do their exchanges at the same time because then they can work together to make contact with the peloton. Again, peloton being the French word for the main group.
The gruppetto.
But again, you know, we're seeing the Black Key Bulls, Phi Delta Theta doing a lot of exchanges, whereas the Cutters really have done maybe 2 or 3 so far.
We're seeing some lap traffic up there on the front. A lot of teams that are a lap down, they're going to scoot to the outside, right, and let our leaders come through. Team number 8, that's Sigma Chi, the Cutters, Beta Theta Pi, in blue.
Andrew Morrow riding for Sigma Chi in a strong effort.
He reminds me of Tom Boonen a little bit. The way he just stands up and takes off. There were people on his wheel there, and I'm sure they wanted to go, they just couldn't react.
Yeah, that's right. I think Cutter's going to come in and do an exchange here, doing a great burn, as you call it, to put his teammate in the best position and making contact with the peloton without using the least amount of energy possible.
Young passes it off to Lusk. The Cutters didn't lose too much.
Well, and the reason, it was all about Eric's set, right? And that gap that Dylan talked about is all about establishing the distance to the pack.
Sigma Chi. Turn it quickly, and they'll do an exchange as well.
Zach's fresh right now, and so the downstream effect, the teamwork that's going on there, Zach can enter in the pack, he can ride on the front, he's fresh, he's just going to roll with it.
Zach's got to close the gap right now, actually, because Grey Goat Cycling has about a 10 or 15 meter gap. And even though that probably won't make a difference in the race right now, it does cause the Cutters to expend a little bit more energy than they wanted to. So we're starting to see the other teams try to take advantage of when Cutters doesn't exchange.
Trogdon for Grey Goat Cycling.
That's a very astute
has the lead.
Dylan, very, very astute. Yeah, there was a little bit of distance right there between the Cutters. So I think every time the Cutter's going for an exchange, the other teams know it. They're getting a little bit of distance on them.
Grey Goat will hand it off. Keel will take the bike.
The other element that starts to add difficulty to the race right now is that we have lap traffic, other riders that the lead group, the riders in the lead group have to essentially contend with, which also makes it dangerous. Some of these riders are not necessarily vying for the win anymore, but can have such a significant impact on the outcome. Again, why it's so important for the Cutters to ride at the front.
Number 13, 9, Black Team Gold, team number 7. And the 10th, W. Epsilon, team number 15. 11th place, Tupacca Delta, team number 11. 12, Acacia, team number 22. The 13, Right Cycling, team number 17. 14, team number 14.
Well, in a little 500, luck can change quickly. Phi Delta Theta knows just that. 2 years ago, all was well until they got caught up in a crash. This year, they're back, racing well thus far today, hoping to get a spot at the podium.
Knows that, and everybody's fresh right now, so they're legging it out. It's Baxter Burnworth on the bike for Phi Delta. He's going to pull off.
We just had a crash.
And a pile up.
Huge crash. That's Phi Delta Theta, Sigma Chi. Cutters are down. Phi Delta Theta, the team in green, just got lapped. They're one lap down.
I think for the past 2 years, kind of got the dirt kicked in our face and, thought we were there, but maybe not quite.
Phi Delta has tasted the agony of defeat one too many times.
Last year, we didn't really prepare for a wreck, and then a wreck happened, and we weren't ready for the consequences of what happens if your bike is completely torn apart.
It ruined our race day. We've kind of seen this thing full circle in terms of what it's like to get your tail end handed to you on race day. And so now it's our last chance. It's go time.
This year, Phi Delta is walking into the race prepared with a crash plan in place.
Luck does play a role in it, but we're going to create our own luck as well. Putting yourself in a good position on race day and riding up front, riding with an attitude.
We know what we can do. We just have to pull it together on race day.
Anything can be thrown at us, but we'll be able to respond this year. Even if we do get a wreck, we're not good. The race isn't over for us.
After spending the past few years on the outside looking in, today's race is all or nothing for Phi Delta seniors.
The 4 of us, that's our last year.
We've been a part of the race. We know what it's like. Now we want to be a part of that memory of we won the race.
We've been kicked around the past few years. I think, our day's come.
Well, so much of what you had talked about, fighting through that adversity.
Fighting through that adversity. It's also, Phi Delta has very, very supportive alumni. They last won the race with Josh Beatty in 2001, and all those guys have rallied a team of 12 that have trained all spring, and they've been competitive, and now they've been able to field very, very 4 strong riders.
Yeah, the other thing that's important to realize is that each team has a spare bike and a set of mechanics on the infield, so if they have some sort of mechanical, they have the ability to recover from that. And that's key, though, is having that plan in place before the race starts.
And the seniors trying to make this one a memorable race.
While we watch on the far side of the track is team number 5, Beta Theta Pi.
You see an acceleration there from Beta Theta Pi on the outside.
On the Prescott straightaway. And that's team number 5, Beta
They're on the
Theta
lead
Pi
lap and get a nice gap right now. I think that's Eric Anderson for them, one of their strongest riders. He cues it up. You want to grab the stem right in the middle, and then it's that leap of faith that you learn how to do.
And Matt Green on the bike, getting back in the pack.
Little 5 is a little bit like cyclocross, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of elements of cyclocross in this race.
That's
you're
right.
running, you're riding.
Yeah, in fact, you know, it's important to note that the riders actually wear tennis shoes, and they don't have pedals like they use in bike races like the Tour de France, where they're clipped in like ski bindings, and that's to enable them to jump on and off and run through the pits.
The other thing is the bikes really aren't cued into them. You only have 2 bikes to work with, and not everybody's the same height. So sometimes what you'll see is the riders will have to build up their shoes. They actually go out and buy surface,
shoes.
yeah, thicker shoes and surface on the bottom, so they can kind of work with that seat height differential.
And you've got Sigma Chi who's out there, team number 8.
Sigma Chi really working hard there to establish a gap so that they can do an exchange. You see the cutters there at the top of your screen a few seconds ago just did an exchange, and now they have to close the gap. Good exchange by Sigma Chi.
Yeah, good exchange by Sigma Chi.
You know, here we see Fidel and Grego, these two teams doing an exchange again at the same time so that they can both get in together. Black Key Bulls there pulling it in the front. And that's a smart strategy.
You know, their pits are right next to each other. I'll be honest with you, I saw the Fidel coaches walking to the other team's pits before the race, kind of talking to them a little bit about race strategy. I really think today it's the field versus the cutters in a way. And I think the field has had a strong showing so far.
Well, I certainly wouldn't be surprised to hear if there were some NASCAR-type business deals going on down in the pits right now. I mean, Cutters is just so strong and so dominant that some of these other teams really have to work together in order to even have a chance at the victory.
Jason, do you remember another time within the history of the Little 500 where it was a dominant team against the field?
What really stands out again is 1979, 1980, and 81. Delta Chi had won 3 times. And the man that won for Phi Delta Theta, Jim Mahaffey, he trained actually with the Delta Chi rider all spring, and it was a shocker. Nobody could believe it. And that's certainly what Phi Delta Theta is trying to do today, right? Shock our favorites. Little 5's also a race of chances. It's a race of position. So many things can happen. So being a favorite doesn't really establish that much over the field. Phi Kappa Psi on the front there, team number 2, another team with a great history, 6 wins.
Gray Goat Cycling in the orange. Patrick O'Hara on the bike for Phi Kappa Psi.
So you've got to wonder where these names come from a lot. Gray Goat Cycling is actually a bicycle shop in Indianapolis. So the team got together, they formed an independent team after that bike shop. But obviously fraternities and dormitories kind of dominate the teams in the field of Little 5.
Let's go downstairs to Hans, who is in the Cutters pit.
I'm in the Cutters pit with Jim Kirkham. Jim, what do you think of the race so far and the pace and how things are going?
It's great. Fast race. It's great for us. Everyone's really taking it in their own hands and trying to take down us. It's really exciting to see. So the faster, the better.
How have you been able to manage your riders? Are you keeping Young off the bike for a while, trying to ride Clayton a lot right now?
We had a rotation. We're sticking with it. And Young's did a really long first set. And we're not worried about the end. We got to get there first.
Okay. What teams do you think are riding really well right now?
My sides are riding great. They caught from a half lap down. Gray Goat, Black Key Bulls, Fiji, Fidels, everyone that's expected to be there is still there.
Okay, well, nice work. Keep it up.
You can see what years of knowledge goes into this event. Jim won the race in 1992 for the Cutters, and standing next to him was Eric Hamilton and Todd Neville. And it's just that knowledge and that experience that you can pass on that helps build the program.
Yeah, absolutely. The expectation and all that institutional knowledge that gets passed down. You know, we see Michael Schroeder from the Cutters, not really in my favorite position because he's kind of at the mercy of everybody around him. He's on the pole, not using a lot of energy, but it would be nicer to see him a little bit closer to the front.
So Dylan, talk to us a little bit about a wreck and why a wreck would happen out there. What would cause a wreck?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that definitely make the tumble happen. These riders, they don't have handbrakes. It's just not possible to fine-tune the speed, or modulate the speed. They have a coaster brake, right? So you basically have to pedal backwards to slow down. And the speed is actually going up and down as riders are doing their exchanges. They're kind of, jockeying for position, and sometimes you get this accordion effect.
It's great for me because what makes the race so unique is that coaster brake, and we have it so that we can do the exchange. So you can stomp on that back pedal and hop off the bike at speed. I've just never seen anything anywhere in the world like it.
Yeah, not at all. You see Michael Shorter from cutters like keying off of the different exchanges that are happening in front of him. It's actually the field getting strung out right now. So far, 58 laps into this event, it's been pretty textbook. Kind of getting into that next phase of the race. You've had the opening laps, a couple of crashes, everybody considering where they're doing now. I see a little push there like, hey, why don't you do a little bit more work there? Just a little gentleman's grudge.
Bi-Cap and the cutters, while they work hard, we'll step aside, take a break, and let everybody remove some cinders. You're watching the 60th running of the Little 500 here on HDNet.
In the 2005 race, we had one of the best teams that was on the track, and all four of us went into it knowing we were going to win that year. We had a wreck pretty early on that put us about 2/3 of a lap down. I looked across the track and somehow my dad had managed to get an infield pass to take pictures. I'm not sure how he pulled that. But he looked across the track at me, kind of pointed at the pack as they went by and said, "Get them." And I just remember hopping on the bike, and a couple laps later there we caught back up.
62 of 200 completed here at the Little 500, and a look at our current standings.
Gentlemen, I can feel the temperature dropping, and I think that only means one thing. We're gonna have a look at the radar.
Yeah, you can feel it. You can see it on the radar. We need a 101 laps to be official.
Oh, and we've got a huge advantage right now by Phi Delta Theta. I'm not sure how they escaped the pack, but they've got about a quarter of a lap on the field. Cutters is on the chase.
If I was riding for the other teams, especially Grey Goat Cycling, who's sitting second wheel off of Cutters right now, I would be thinking, hey, you know what? This is your race to lose. You're gonna have to do all the work. I'm just gonna sit here and watch. And then if the Cutters has to come in and do an exchange, that's his chance to bridge across.
Steven Sharp on the bike.
Steven, you can see him signaling his helmet. He's had his laps right now. I think the other teams may be watching the radar. They know they need to get over 100 laps in to call it final, and teams are really racing aggressive because of that. Phi Delta's just punching it. Steven Sharp winning, missing out this spring. They have a very, very strong, deep team, and this is the kind of move that can make a difference.
Eric Young he's trying to bridge the gap by himself right now. This is a huge move. If he's able to make contact, these two riders can ride away from their race. So right now, it's totally up to Grey Goat Cycling and the other teams to not let Eric get away.
There's a Phi Delta exchange. You're going to see Cutters is making up a lot of ground on him right now.
Christopher West being chased by Young.
Well, this is exciting. Only 66 laps in, and the race has really started right now. They're not waiting till 200.
Eric's really digging to close that gap. You can see Sigma Kai at the top of your screen who's also trying to catch Eric. We can see this kind of come back together and neutralize. Although if Grey Goat Cycling is paying attention, that might be their opportunity to launch a counterattack.
And Young has closed the gap.
I love this right now because Phi Delta Theta has a fresh rider on. Eric dug deep. He caught the pack on his set. Now he's off the front trying to close it. The Cutters pit knows it. They know they've closed it, but will Phi Delta go again? and you really can't go off the front. You know, where you want to attack from, Dylan, in bicycle racing is not on the lead, but somewhere inside the pack.
Yeah, if you can come from 3 or 4 wheels back and kind of catch everybody surprised, that's always the best time. You see Eric pulling through there.
Andrew Morrow from Sigma Chi.
So we have 3 riders. Well. We have 3 riders right now in the lead lap. But look, this is a bad time to be doing an exchange for cutters, but we'll see what happens.
Well, Eric Young was gassed. He had done 10, 15 laps. He chased to catch on, and then he had to deal with the attack, which he dealt with. And now it's really up to Clayton, I think, who's on the bike right now, to close that on Phi Delta Theta.
Yeah, so Clayton's really going to have to close this gap. Otherwise, Sigma Chi and Phi Delta Theta could ride away from this race. We're 68 laps in. We have a huge storm that's just on our corner. Just over there, I can see it over the left shoulder. The temperature's dropping. This race could come to a conclusion a lot earlier than planned.
And what would cause the race to be called, it has to have 101 laps in to make it an official race, but it wouldn't be the rain, it would be lightning.
That's right, so Phi Delta Theta just did an exchange there, so now they're back together.
2 fresh riders on the bike. Just like Jim Kirkham in the pit said, they're trying to make it a hard race. They've got that advantage, and they're drilling it right now.
Right, so you see Nicholas Savinsky come back in for Phi Delta Theta. They're going to work together with Clayton, try to make contact with the Sigma Chi riders so that you have a three-rider breakaway.
Well, we can't lose sight of Delta Tau Delta. They snuck up on there. Delta Tau Delta's on the lead lap, so we've got 3 teams.
And an ugly exchange for Sigma Chi.
Not a good exchange at all. They go from being in the lead to all of a sudden now being back in the pack and actually behind the group. Behind the lead breakaway of Nicholas Savinsky from Phi Delta Theta and Clayton Feldman from the Cutters. You can see just a bad exchange. It's probably a result of just being completely gassed.
Seeing double, perhaps, right? Tongue out, seeing double. I just did this big set, and it's tough to do an exchange when you feel like that.
Absolutely.
Team number 2, in fourth, the Sigma Chi team number 8.
Just killing themselves out there right now. They're making this a very, very hard race. Delta Tau Delta, Cutters, Phi Delta Theta, rattling off 33, 34-second laps.
70 of 200. With the rain approaching, we need 101 in the books to be official.
Part of the chaos that is the Little 500 is having these fields. You know, you have riders that are multiple laps down mixed in with riders that are on the lead lap at a time when they're actually attacking each other and trying to separate themselves, and then you have all these other riders that are on the other laps kind of stuck in the middle, and it actually helps the riders regain contact.
And a couple of those teams have got back on. Sigma Chi, the team in 4th in red, they're back on. Delta Tau Delta now pulling through in the brighter red, I should say. So we've got 4 teams together on the lead lap. We've got Cutters in yellow, Phi Delta Theta, Delta Tau Delta, and Sigma Chi. The racing is definitely on. It's only 72 laps in.
Yeah, Nick Leonard there sitting in second wheel looking over. He's like, okay, I think I'll take a pull now. You know, it's really up to these teams to make it happen right now. They've got to come together.
So it's a little bit about communication. I mean, do they know down in the pit? I guess, like Dylan said, we can just kind of sense that the rain is coming here in the stadium. So what you're seeing is just a lot of aggressive racing.
Oh, and you look like here Nick has a flat tire, so he's got his arm up. He's signaling to his pit, hey, I got a flat tire.
Chains off. Chains off.
Oh, his chains off.
Because of that single speed, chains off. Nothing's going to happen right now.
So what is protocol? Somebody needs to bring him a new bike where he is?
This is what they talk about the week before the race. What happens when the chain's off, when a flat's on, and he's got to get there. He's got to find his guy right now.
He's got to run over there and almost do like an exchange, if you will, because he can't just jump on the track.
No, and there's got to be a touch. They have to enter at the same point. Just get on the track and go. You can see a little
Instead, they'll substitute in a new rider.
You know it's not what they're looking for, but you don't want to see him give up, and that's not exactly how you want him to react as a coach.
So Adam Fish on the bike now for Sigma Chi.
Well, the other thing is, I mean, okay, look, if it doesn't rain, I mean, we still have a lot of racing to do left. It is possible for them to get back into the race.
Or if it's raining, but it's not dangerous. You know, as we saw in 2004, we're going to race if it's raining. It's just the thunder and the lightning, and until it gets too dangerous. So it's a lot of unknowns in this year's Little 500.
Definitely having an impact on the strategy and how all the teams are executing right now.
Assistant coach?
Yep.
Let's go downstairs and check in with Hans.
I'm down in the Phi Delta Theta pit with Matt Ewing, the assistant coach. Matt, are you guys racing for the weather? You're starting to rain possibly, and the radar showing something's rolling in.
No. This was our plan all along. We think we're the deepest team. We want to blow the race apart. We blew it apart. We've got it down to 3 teams. Looks like BKB and a couple others are back. So we're just going to keep rolling this tempo and look to capitalize on opportunities.
You guys won the Spring Series event. You definitely have the strongest team. How are your riders doing right now? Are you balancing the workload out?
Oh yeah, and they're fresh and ready to go again. So look for that opportunity, and we're going to roll it hard.
All right. Well, I like the aggressive racing. Keep it up.
Thank you, Hans.
Baxter Burnworth on the bike for Phi Delta Theta. Experienced rider with a 5th place in ITCs. They've got the depth to continue to punch it.
You know, Phi Delta Theta is really happy with this race right now. You know, of course, they don't want to have it come down to a sprint with the cutters, but they've limited their competition. It's down to 3 teams right now. We're not even at the halfway point.
It's an elimination race. It's all about putting the other teams into difficulty, as Phil Liggett would say.
That's right.
He's in a bit of difficulty. And there's a lot of teams out there that are right now, but the teams that are not are, again, with Phi Delts and Cutters still riding strong. Betas is back on. Delta Tau Delta.
Well, the other thing that the Cutters and Phi Delts can't do right now is they can't get too comfortable because the other teams can catch back up. It's so early in the race.
Not even halfway through. Lap 78 of 200. A 50-mile race. A little 500 here in Bloomington.
Gentlemen, I don't think it's a question of if, it's a question of when in terms of the weather. The second question is how bad is it going to be?
Dylan's got the radar up on his laptop right here. With a background in Google, we're very technological here. We've got all the information that we need. We've searched it up, and the radar looks red.
You know, I'm happy you brought that up because Dylan Casey, not only is he a professional rider, not only did he race, call Lance Armstrong a close personal friend, he works for Google, and so you need to know everything that happens within Dylan Casey's world has to be at the cutting edge of technology, and we have that up here in the booth, and that's a good feeling.
He's got it. I got to give a little pitch. I come from Accenture, and we're one of the biggest management consulting IT firms in the world, so I think we've got technology handled up here.
Well, I'm just trying to keep up with you guys. We have the professional broadcaster and, of course, the mayor of Bloomington here, the president of
Jason
the Little 500.
Sonnenborn, yeah, back in the day, president, and he indeed is the unofficial mayor of Bloomington for the world's greatest college weekend.
Giving me a little press. I'll tell you, for me, it's all about highlighting the riders and highlighting what the riders do out there and highlighting what the Student Foundation does to put on the race. So it's really been a joy to do this, and great racing today. So this has been one of the most exciting races we've seen early in years.
Oh, absolutely. I think the more elements of unknown and kind of excitement that get added, today with the weather and the Cutters really making this race and blowing it apart, just takes this whole event to another level.
Beta Theta Pi on the front. That's Eric Anderson for them. Beta is really strong programmer. Stepped it back up, I should say. John Grant, who won the race for Gafambi, which was Beta Theta Pi, has really helped them kind of establish a presence on campus.
Since we're talking about technology, I have my Twitter page open up here too. If anybody at home who's watching the broadcast wants to send us a question, I'm at Dylan Casey. So just send us something you want to know about or any comments, and we'll try to answer them.
Theta Pi out in front. The Cutters hanging tough. I guess the only question right now when you look at the 3-time defending champion Cutters is, how much is being taken out of Eric Young. Nick's English Hut. There is a slice of America. What a spot. Later tonight, Mayor?
Well, it doesn't mean much more. They put pictures up of former riders all over Nick's, and that's where we'll be, no question.
1973, Delta Chi had been one of the favorites for several years. We had not managed to put together the perfect race to be able to take the podium. That race wasn't a perfect race, but because we were just absolutely determined not to lose, we ended up being able to come back to win that race.
There's the rain.
2010 Little 500 from Indiana University. Rich Cellini, Jason Sonnenborn, Dylan Casey, and Hans Arneson. And we're about to be joined by the rain as we have 85 of 200 in the books.
6 teams on the lead lap. The race is at a little bit of a lull right now. Of course, we see the rain just starting to touch the ground. People are starting to put on jackets. You can see the radar is just going to pummel us in a few minutes.
We'll go through the rain. The only concern would be lightning and a safety issue.
86 laps into the race. One thing to note is a lot of the riders started with clear lenses on their glasses so that they could actually see when it rains. In fact, if it gets really dirty out there with the cinders, they might even have to take those glasses off, Jason.
Yeah, it's a lot of those little things that you learn kind of later in your racing career. I remember when I started, I was always wearing dark shades, and a day like today, it just doesn't work. Dylan's got that Oakley sponsorship, so he continues to send me the eyewear that I need.
Feldman and the Cutters sporting the yellow jerseys, and they'll do an exchange. Zachary Lusk on the bike.
And the environment here is so many people are thinking about the weather. I don't know yet whether we'll stop before 200, but we started the race early, and so many of the coaches are thinking about it. I just think we're going to see a brutal pace and really an unknown area between lap 100 and 200.
We need 101 to be official, and the rain has really started to come down in earnest.
Zach Lusk on the bike. He's chasing Delta Tau Delta, who's up the road a little bit right now, going into turn 1.
Yeah, you can start to see the rain coming down, little sprinkles on the lens there. It's really coming down now.
And now the big drops.
You can hear
and
the crowd
loves it.
The crowd is going nuts.
Youth.
I think the rain is actually pouring fire on this party.
Resilience. Pick it up. It's about getting students out. We've done it, and they're going to survive.
That's what makes a Little 500 so amazing. I mean, to have a crowd this big and really just come up a level with the rain.
The biggest collegiate cycling event in the country, in the state of Indiana, known for racing. And it's passed on through generations, and the rain is coming down and adding another element to the 2010 Little 500. Downstairs to our man in the rain, here's Hans.
Yeah, the rain is definitely coming down hard right now. You know, when you're out there riding on the track in the rain, it gets dirty. You start eating cinders that get kicked up in your face. They get on your glasses and it gets hard to see. But the only thing that's going to stop this race is if they have thunder and lightning or if there are big puddles on the track where it's dangerous to ride. I talked to some of the teams earlier today, and they're looking forward to the rain because it makes things a little bit questionable, and they're waiting for the Cutters to slip up so they can make a move.
Schroeder back on the bike for the Cutters. Thank you, Hans. Gents, your thoughts of riding in the rain?
I talked to a couple the boys on Cutters before the race, and the word epic just came out. I think they love it and invite it. What I've heard Dylan say before is once conditions like this set in, half of the field just quits.
Oh yeah, you know, I remember doing a race in Europe and it was pouring rain on the start line, and Lance looks at me, he says, "Don't worry, half the field just quit." So this is a real opportunity for some of these guys to take advantage of the fact that it's raining, it's cold, the conditions are going to get worse, then they can actually take a jump on everybody. You know, you see Delta Tau Delta there with Cutters right on his wheel. I mean, these guys can just ride away from everybody while they're trying to get accustomed to the rain.
Leonard in red, Schroeder in yellow, and you see the cinders peppering the face of the riders.
You know, one of the other things they're going to have to pay attention to is the traffic. It's going to be even worse when you're sitting on that wheel in front of you. It's spitting up dirt, the cinders and the rain. And it also becomes harder to maneuver your bike. You can see the water starting to puddle on the track.
And we didn't get the communication we needed right there. Those are lap teams. They need to move out.
They're probably barking on the back, just trying to punch it right now. Delta Tau Delta just drilling it.
We've seen several teams drill it today, yet nobody has been able to separate from the Cutters.
You know, Michael Schroeder looks like he's in a little bit of trouble right now. He's got his head tilted to the side. He's looking for some help. Maybe he's going to come in here and do an exchange, but, you know, everybody's got their mouth wide open just because they can't even see it's raining so hard.
And that's not what you want if you're Cutters. He was in all kinds of difficulty. He comes in off the back, and now Eric Young, their sprinter, he's got to catch back up again. Delta Tau Delta just being aggressive, punching it, putting the Cutters in all kinds of difficulty.
Yeah, you know, really, especially when you have to make a guy like Eric Young do a lot of work. He's their key sprinter for the finish. He's going to have to work his way through lap traffic again, and you know, with the conditions now, it makes it even harder to go around riders. You see the rider from Delta Tau Delta there, he's also hurting, but he's doing a great set. And looks like he's going to do an exchange here.
Young again making up ground, but we've seen him have to do it several times throughout the day.
And now he just keeps going. He's got black key bulls on his hip. Great aggressive ride by Delta Tau Delta. I also saw Eric extremely focused. That's one thing he's established. He's a biology and neuroscience major here at Indiana, and he's a very, very focused individual, and you can see it on his face right now. It's not going to get to him. You see Gray Goat cycling, or I'm sorry, this Black Key Bulls in second, and Gray, they're on the lead lap. I could be wrong on the lead lap for Black Key Bulls. We'll have to get a check.
Eric looking around to see what's happening, looking for some instructions from the pit. Rain continuing to just pour here in Bloomington at the Little 500.
We have confirmation the Black Key Bulls are not on the lead lap.
So we've got that confirmation. So we've got two together. Multiple teams on the lead lap, but two together off the front right now, and that's Cutters and Delta Tau Delta. Riding extremely aggressive. Delta Tau Delta's coach, Ryan Niebler, he picked up a win in the alumni race today, and that's one thing he told me. Is he just said they want to ride aggressive. They want to put the pressure on the other teams. They've got some guys that love bike racing. They come in prepared, and they're riding a tremendous race.
The other question is, where is Phi Delta Theta? They were riding such a strong race.
Cutters and Eric Young setting the pace.
There's Phi Delta Theta trying to make contact again with the Cutters. Phi Side Eric Young from Cutters really making a grip there. Look, he almost lost it there. He looked over his shoulder, almost overlapped wheels.
Phi Psi has Adam Mercer on the bike.
We missed Phi Kappa Psi. When the rain came out, absolute pandemonium broke out. But Phi Kappa Psi had a little advantage, and now they're back with the Cutters off the front.
So Phi Psi and Eric Young from the Cutters got a little bit of a gap here, but it looks like Eric's going to come in and do an exchange. Nope, he's going to keep going.
And the pain you see in the riders' faces right now. Phi Kappa Psi just getting dropped. Eric came through hard, and now he's off the front.
So basically now Eric is riding away from everybody.
He has another gear.
And we're at lap 99 for folks at home right now. 99 after 100, the race can be official. It will be stopped if the conditions are unsafe, but there's a bit of an unknown on whether we come back out and race when it's safe or whether the race is official. Cutters leaving nothing to chance right now.
Young stays on the inside and will bypass another exchange, and water beginning to puddle and build on the inside of the track.
He's really out in no man's land. So the question that we'll try to figure out is, are the other teams regrouping behind him, or is it complete pandemonium and is everybody single file? Eric's got about a quarter lap on Delta Tau Delta is what I can see right now.
Yellow flag is going to come out, ladies and gentlemen.
Sounds like the yellow flag is coming out.
And it's yellow, and then if we see red,
caution flag is out.
Slow down, riders. Slow down. We will take the pace off of the Cutters.
Cutters will set the pace.
So, folks at home, it's a bit of an unknown whether we will see the red flag, whether the officials deem this race unsafe. It could happen. They're under yellow right now.
Well, I certainly hope they don't call this race yet. You know, the rain has let up a little bit. According to the radar, it looks like this band of torrential downpour might just pass through and we could have dry conditions again.
Well, and the timing of this, right? It happened right at 100. We're at 101 right now.
Right.
It really goes back to the knowledge and really the information in the pit to make something like that happen at that moment.
Talk about under the yellow flag. Who is responsible for making sure all riders stay within the gaps that have been established and people don't creep?
The riders themselves are responsible for maintaining their distance to the leaders. So right now, Cutters are in the lead, and the other teams on the track just need to maintain their distance to the lead. If they don't do that, there's pit judges around the track that would assess a penalty that would get communicated back up to the booth.
Yesterday we had rain all morning, and then when the women's little 500 got underway, it cleared. We even had some sunshine and a beautiful afternoon of racing. We had nice weather this morning, and now this afternoon, 100 laps into our race. We might be able to get through this in a little bit of time. No concern about the rain unless large puddles, as Hans told us, form on the track and deem it unsafe. Big concern, the thunder and lightning.
Well, you know, we saw on the radar there, it looks like we got a clear patch right behind that band. I'm really hoping that we keep this race going because it's just so exciting so far. The whole thing has been blown apart at the halfway point.
As a former all-star rider, Jason, what are your thoughts? Getting into an event like this, and then the thought that maybe our whole year of training can get cut in half, only get 100 of our 200 laps in.
You deal with it. You understand that those are the rules. I got to tell you, I've been to over 15 races now, and I've competed in 4, and I've never seen, in the races that I've seen, I've never seen a situation like that.
Red flag is out.
Not the time you want to crash.
And it doesn't necessarily mean the Cutters are the winner. What it means is the race is stopped right now, and we will start racing if it becomes
We're going to need to get confirmation. The Cutters are celebrating as though they are victorious for their 4th consecutive time.
Well, you got to hand it to the Cutters.
So the race has been stopped. Our question is whether or not they're going to wait for the weather to go through and restart it, or if they're going to call it 104 laps in.
As a fan, I want them to finish right now, no question.
Yeah, absolutely. I really hope they don't call this race. I hope the officials are looking at the radar. We haven't seen any lightning or thunder yet.
We've got a little celebration down in the pit. Jason Fowler, their coach, we have not got official word from the booth or from the officials.
So look, it's going to be really important that these riders get back into their pit, regroup, get warm. The race is not over. We just had official word that the race is not over.
So it has been stopped, but it is not completed.
So it's we have a real challenge here, right?
So they're hoping when this weather passes, and they expect it to take 10 minutes or so, and they will then restart the race.
So these guys have got to regroup right now. They've got to get some clothes on and get warm. The worst thing that can happen right now is to get cold. Your muscles get tight, your legs fill up with lactic acid. And these guys have got to also recap their minds. You know, they got to regroup and get focused on the race again. We still have 100 laps to go.
Let's check in with Hans.
Just talked to a race official. He said that they're suspending the race as of lap 102, so they're going to take the standings from lap 102. They've looked at the radar and they're confident that they can restart this race this afternoon. So they're going to let this heavy rain pass and restart based off the standings from lap 102.
Thank you, Hans. So we'll have 2 little 500s in essence, a 102 lap race, a little break, and then a 98 lap race. And the pace from the first 102 laps was fast and furious.
It was, and like Dylan mentioned right now, the guys, they need to reconvene a little bit. There's a lot of unknown. Luckily, we have Hans down there on the infield to help us. Not only was he a great rider, but he's the man with the information right now. So they got to keep their legs fresh, right? They've got to stay hydrated, and they've got to stay focused, right? This is something that nobody really expected.
Absolutely, you know, but this is part of what they train for. You have to train for all elements that could happen, and weather is definitely something that they've thought about.
Anybody will tell you, Jason Sonneborn can attest to this, that competing in the Little 500 isn't just an event, it's a way of life during your time as a student at IU. A couple of weeks ago, while everybody who attends school here as a Hoosier was out on spring break, Paisai was out all the way across the country training and grinding out miles.
2,085 miles west of Bloomington, college students from across the country arrive in San Diego to catch a wave, soak in the rays, and kick spring break off in style. But rather than hitting the beach, Phi Kappa Psi's Little 500 team comes here twice a year to hit the pavement.
We sacrifice a lot of what a lot of people would consider the typical college experience, but when race day comes around, it's going to be, you know, it's all going to pay off.
Come on, push it, push it, push! Last lap, last lap, last lap! Come on, Yale, get up there!
Their coach is Jim Case, an Indiana Phi Psi alum, but more recently, the brains behind the athletic-minded Traveler franchise.
Come on, one lap left, that's it!
Case utilizes San Diego's coastal training areas to replicate race day conditions. Meanwhile, local hills come in handy for building strength and endurance.
The object is going to be to get as far up the hill as you possibly can on a little 5 bike. So Dan, you're up first, and good luck, don't fall. And if anybody gets up to the top, it's a free steak dinner.
Wow. That's incentive. It's more of a mentality shift. You know, we wake up and do our workouts every day in Bloomington, and it's kind of just the standard thing. But when we're in San Diego, we know it's go time.
25% grade. Come on, get it. Get it, get it, get it, get it, get it, get it. Going, 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 going. Stopping. Stopping. Training program's intense. It's really intense, and it's amazing how devoted these guys are. I mean, it's truly a varsity sport.
A lot of people forget that not only do we ride in the race, but we go to school at IU. There's an insane amount of devotion and commitment, but I don't feel like I'm missing out on the spring break experience because when April 24th comes around, it all means so much more.
Once that rolling start wears off, it's all muscle. It's a little tough.
It's not flat.
No, it's definitely less than flat.
All right. Next challenge. It's not just about the race. I mean, the race is part of their life. It's not their entire life. And so we're really even more proud that over the last 5 years, all of our guys have graduated with a GPA of 3.0 or better. And so I think that says a lot about their character and where they are as growing adults. I mean, that's what Phi Psi is all about.
Come on, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Last lap.
Given their trips across the country and all their hard work, Phi Psi's riders are confident they won't need to rely on luck.
I once heard that you put yourself in position to be lucky, and I believe that. If you train hard enough, you'll get lucky, and anything short of a win this year would be a disappointment.
Phi Psi's been in every race since the inception, and there's a lot of tradition associated with Phi Psi cycling and training for this and spending time with the team and coming out to San Diego. Being a part of that is something special.
Torrents of rain coming down right now in Bloomington. The 60th running of the Little 500 has been stopped. 102 laps in. The hope is to restart the race.
Well, you know, we just heard a huge
through.
That's right, we just heard a huge thunder and lightning. It's not a good sign. I think the only thing that is making me feel confident that we're going to restart is the fact that that band that we saw on the radar showed some clearing behind it. You can see everybody in the stands making a run for it, trying to find some space in the tent. Although I got to say, our fans seem to be
Dylan, yeah, it's a matter of what you're watching. You know, the infield people are scrambling, but in the stands, they're having a heck of a lot of fun right now.
Yeah, the riders just trying to stay warm, you know. But here we see the fans, they're really well prepared for this weather.
And there is the band. We're here in Bloomington. And the hope is that this not particularly thick but very heavy downpour will pass and we can complete the final 98 laps of the 60th running of the Little 500. As we stand right now, the Cutters are in first place. Back to Bloomington in a moment.
Winning the race is maybe the best experience in my life in terms of just pure adrenaline emotion. I was just in disbelief that we were winning the race. I mean, it was something that for 3 years, every waking hour was, how are we going to win this race? Waking up every morning and literally asking myself, okay, what are the things I'm going to do today that will help me win? Everything else I'm going to knock aside. And to see that actually come to fruition is almost indescribable.
Race is stopped. We're in a weather delay, the 2010 Little 500. 102 of 200 laps completed. The Cutters trying to become the first team in the history of this event to win 4 consecutive races. Have the lead just past the midway mark. And the hope is that this band of weather will pass through and we can restart in the not too distant future, and the world's greatest college weekend rolls on here in Bloomington.
Oh, it's sad to see some of the fans are leaving. Maybe they think the race is going to be over.
Some of the hardier souls are sticking around.
Yeah, that's right. Faisai and the Beta Taipei house are definitely in for it. They're here to stay.
It's an excellent crowd prior to the rain, and a lot of people stuck around through the downpour. What really sent them out in droves was the thunder followed by the lightning.
Yeah, I think they probably have some experience with that around here with thunder cells. But the riders, you know, you can see they've got their rain jackets on. They're riding the trainers. They actually have their regular road bikes here so that they can ride them in between sets and, of course, in moments like this.
And the hope and the word we get right now is they're going to try to restart this race in about 15 minutes. "60 years of the Little 500, and when you say the words Little 500 around the state of Indiana, everybody knows what you're talking about. And when you explain that this event was the cornerstone for the hit Breaking Away all the way back in 1979, everybody in the country knows what you're talking about. It was nominated for 5 Academy Awards and 1 for Best Screenplay. And more than 30 years later, Breaking Away still inspires audiences.
I think one of the reasons why people love this movie so much, aside from it being a kick-ass bike race movie, is it still resonates to this day. Because there's a lot of sports movies that just don't hold up. And then to be sitting in the frame of the Little 500 is just perfect because it gives us that wallop of an ending that being at the Little 5 gives you.
Dennis Christopher played Dave Stoller, a Bloomington teen coming of age, trying to find his identity, much like the character's real-life inspiration, David Blaze.
I hated the way I was so much that I think the bike was my way of, it was like a purgative. It sort of like beat the things out of me that I hated so much. And the strange thing I found that having overcome some of that adversity, I grew in my own self-respect.
Lebbiamo amore, amore.
Hey, ciao bambini.
Più caldi baci avrà.
Buongiorno.
While riding for Phi Kappa Psi, Blaze caught the attention of Steve Tessich, Blaze's fraternity brother and the man who eventually went on to write Breaking Away.
One weekend in Bloomington, there was a rider up ahead of me, and I chased him down, and I was singing an aria, I think from Rigoletto or a Neapolitan song, and here this was Steve Teschich. And I guess he was sort of fascinated by my Italian-like mannerisms.
A promoter, fondatore, he tells me that the Italians will be here maybe soon, and I will race with the best of them.
When you have a lot of your own insecurities, if you can fantasize yourself as being something that you dream of being, you can come to peace a little easier with yourself. And the other thing is, if they made fun of me, well, it didn't bother me because I thought, hey, what the heck, that's not me anyway. I'm just playing this role.
Though it had a modest budget, Breaking Away had an impressive cast.
I was sitting next to Paul Dooley. I didn't know Paul Dooley. I didn't know who he was. He just sitting there and very plainly dressed. And I asked him, I said, well, sir, what's your capacity in this movie? Well, hell, I'm your dad!
A couple of young aspiring actors named Daniel Stern and Dennis Quaid also got their starts.
Working with Danny Stern and Jackie Earle Haley and Dennis Quaid at that time was just, you know, when you're with buddies making a movie, it's even better.
And director Peter Yates didn't have to go far to find his villain. That role went to IU alum and Little Five All-Star Eddie Van Geis.
I liked being the villain because I knew that if you played a good bad guy, you'd get some attention, you know what I mean? And andiamo and filare, you know, the bent elbow greeting, which got a lot of commentary. And of course, the big thing was sticking the pump in the wheel and knocking the hero down.
Breaking Away is an enduring chapter in Little Five history, and even though it was created more than 3 decades ago, the film still connects with generations today.
The goodwill that I receive from people on the street is amazing, and none of us had any idea that it was going to garner the attention or have the success that it actually had, and it changed my life.
We're in a rain delay right now at the 2010 Little 500 with the movie Breaking Away. Still have pretty big impact around here, Jason Sonnenborn?
Oh, there's no question. They play Breaking Away in the dormitories during the spring, but pretty much every day. So people are into cycling and they're prepared for it. One of the interesting things that I learned about Breaking Away was just that all of the bicycle racing pieces in Breaking Away, we used real riders as their doubles. So you saw Eddie Van Geis there. Gary Rybar was actually Dave Stoller, the star character in that. Gary Rybar wrote for Delta Chi, of course, in the 1970s. But they brought back all real riders, right, to go out and film the movie, I should say.
And that certainly has to be one of the main reasons why the movie stacks up as a sport movie, and that those of you who know racing for real can tell that these aren't actors trying to ride bikes. These are real riders riding.
Yeah, you can really see the excitement. One of the scenes that stands out in my mind is they're going 50 miles per hour north out of Bloomington, and Dave Stoller, the star character, he's sitting on the back of the Shinzano truck, which is the Italian team that's in town, and he's out there just training, thinking about Little Five that year. Dylan can talk to, the best cycling movies of all time. Of course, that's my pick.
Oh yeah, Breaking Away. It's funny. You tell somebody that you're going out to Bloomington to see the Little 500, and they kind of look at you like, huh? And then you say Breaking Away, and they're like, oh, I got it. Yeah, of course. It's definitely a monument for the sport of cycling, and I think there's a lot of people that will attest to the fact that it's something that inspired them to pursue cycling as a sport.
So they filmed it all in Bloomington. There were no shots that were not in Bloomington. One of the scenes that really stands out in my mind is they're a group of students who had been in a fight. They're talking to the dean, and what the dean says is, for many of you, you'll be in Bloomington for 4 years. Bloomington is my home, and I don't like the way you're behaving in my home. So what Breaking Away really brings out is the union that the town and the university have, that we pull it off together. It's just a great story and a great film.
Well, the hope for the folks that are sticking around is that we'll be able to get the final 98 laps of the 60th running of the Little 500 in once this weather system passes through. And you see right there where we are in Bloomington, so Rain still coming down. Hopefully they can let this pass through and within the next 15 minutes restart the race and see if the Cutters can go on and get their 4th consecutive Little 500 championship. When the race was stopped, the Cutters were still in front.
So look at the Cutters here. That's Clayton Feldman bringing in the bike for Michael Patches Schroeder. Good exchange there. For those at home, that's why they're on the lead. Is good exchanges and strong riding. They're like Zach Lusk is doing. He's going straight to the front.
They've taken control of this race from the very start. They've owned it. They've controlled it. They've actually dictated it. And really surprising for a team that has such a good sprinter. You know, typically when you have a great sprinter, you just kind of sit back. But you know, they've really taken this race and made it their own.
So you can see Eric Young on the front there when they stopped the race.
And the Cutters were under the impression that the stopped race, and I think many teams were as well, Jason, you were downstairs, that a stopped race would mean a completed/finished race. That is not the case.
No, that's not the case. It just goes to that this is unique ground for us, and that we haven't seen something like this. So before the race started, I was down in the pits, and all the coaches were talking to their riders about what could happen after lap 100. It could be stopped, but what I think we'll see here is if the weather moves through, I think we'll start racing again. But certainly being off the front's never a bad thing, and the Cutters established that.
Now Hans had made the point about concern, not just with the rain, because that was okay, but with the thunder and lightning, and now what we're seeing as the rain has come through is some of the puddles that have formed on the inside of the track.
The word epic comes out. When you're racing in standing water, it slowly becomes epic. It's also unsafe, right? So the officials kind of need to, they'll obviously get together, and Chief Steward Mark Howard will make a call on that. But we need to finish under safe conditions.
Well, we'll see if we get this restarted. We had a clean race so far today, but one of the components I think that draws people to watching the Little 500 are there have been some monumental, epic crashes throughout history. Welcome back. In a weather delay here at the Little 500, Rich Cellini, Jason Sonnenborn, Dylan Casey, and Hans Arneson. 102 of 200 completed. If the officials deemed it, they could call this race because we're past the midway point. But the hope is that once the weather gets through, let the track dry out a little bit and get this restarted and complete all 200 laps / 50 miles.
Yeah, you know, we saw those crashes. They haven't had that much of an impact on today's race. Today's race, we saw the 6 teams on the lead lap there. Has really been about racing. Of course, the weather having something to do with it. We'll see what happens here if they decide to start the race again. One of the other things that's really hard to do is once you've been racing and you stop, you get cold, trying to get back amped up for starting another race, essentially.
And speaking of just that mental aspect, Dylan, the Cutters were convinced, as we saw a celebration down in their pit, that when the red flag came out, the race was over. And so there are a lot of teams who maybe thought that the day was done, and now you go back and not only the physical part, but the mental part to get re-engaged again and compete.
Yeah, you know, their coaches are really going to have to bring everybody back up, you know, kind of get them amped back up just like they did for the first start. Because The other teams, I mean, if you know, one thing about this conditions and then also this restart is it's a great way to take advantage for the fact that people are mentally crushed. You know, if Cutters comes back on or one of the other teams comes on and just drills it right at the start, kind of catches everybody off guard. You know, it's no fun to race in the rain like this, so you can really take advantage of some of the other teams that have basically mentally quit already.
What will the impact be of a soggy track if we do resume racing, Jason?
I think we'll see more wrecks. A soggy track is good, but standing water is just never good. As Dylan was talking about earlier, that's when you want to get the clear glasses on and just be ready to go out and be a gladiator, I suppose. You got to go to battle.
And as you see right there, we do have patches of standing water.
Yeah, you know, I think the other thing that the rain does is it actually slows the track down a little bit. So it makes it a little bit harder for that one or two person breakaway. You know, but it'll be interesting to see how they restart this race with Cutters that had such a significant gap. You know, Eric or whoever they decide to put in is essentially going to have a time trial ahead of him and a 98-lap time trial. So, you know, who knows? Maybe Cutters says, "Hey, you know what? Let's let it come back together. We got 98 laps to race. Let's just sit up."
What would you do?
I think it would be interesting to see what happens if Eric drills it at the start, to see what happens with the other teams. Maybe he has the opportunity to lap the field, right? The other challenge here is that the field is completely decimated. It's basically scattered. It's a yard sale out there. So, you know, there's some advantages to trying to drill it and, you know, kind of leapfrog your way back around. But again, it's going to be very chaotic. There's still 98 laps to go. It's a long ways to really go for it that far out. But you never know. You know, Cutters, they have a great tradition, a lot of history here of being aggressive, and they might just actually drill it at the start.
What do you think, Jason?
I think I'm really impressed by the way some of the other teams are riding right now. Not just talking about Cutters, but thinking about Grey Goat Cycling, an independent team, and Delta Tau Delta, Phi Delta Theta, Beta Theta Pi. I see them regrouping and chasing very hard to pull back Cutters.
In your 4 years as an all-star rider, did you ever have any weather and rain to deal with during a race?
Oh yeah, as Dylan knows, I mean, you have a lot of. I didn't on race day.
Not on race day, okay.
Which was fortunate. And what we do is we don't, you know, we really don't practice in these conditions that often. So I guess for folks at home, you know, it's understanding that we are in a little bit of an unknown, and we'll see how we all react to this. As a rider right now, and there's a young man that's not a rider that's just having a tremendous time. But as a rider right now, as Dylan mentioned earlier, you know, you're in the pits, you're just trying to stay loose and be ready for what's next, which is hopefully the completion of the 60th running of the Little 500.
Clearly, it takes a lot to get the students of this university cold. Apparently, this weather is not that bad for them, although I have a feeling relative to the other weather conditions that they experience, this is a nice, mild spring day.
Now you see in the corner of your screen some of the ponchos coming off. The rain has stopped.
And you'll do whatever you can do.
Two in a trash bag, huh?
Right? Yes, I wouldn't call that garbage, but you know, it's an innovative way to stay warm.
You can see there's a Teeter jacket next to those two young ladies, our women's winners from yesterday. Teeter picking up their second win.
And they did an outstanding job yesterday. What a race from them. And let's go downstairs to the track and check in with Hans.
I'm here with the Delts coach, Courtney Bishop. The rain has stopped and we're waiting right now for the track to dry up. Courtney, you guys are starting in second place when we restart. What are you going to do? Your riders have been off the track for a while. They've been trying to stay warm. What's the plan?
Well, you know, we had the number 4 Delta Tau Delta Nike Verizon SpongeBob SquarePants Schwinn's been running pretty good. We figured that once the rain stops, we were going to see what happens. We had our tires kind of greasy on the backstretch, but with the rain stopping, we're going to get them changed out, and we figure our boys will be pretty good. Our boys been on the bike the whole time during the rain delay, so we're just going to put our faith in God and our faith in our training. I think we're going to be able to pull that out.
All right, you guys have been riding aggressive all day. I like it. The weather's been epic. The race has been fast. You're going to keep that strategy up?
Hey, you know what? We got to keep that strategy up. We don't have a choice, you know. Everybody we're out here with a plan. Everybody's got a plan, but, you know, I think it was Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan so they get punched in the face. So we're going to try to get out there and do some punching, that's for sure.
All right, good luck, Courtney.
I appreciate that.
Thanks.
Well,
all right, thank you, Hans. Yesterday we were out here under a little nicer circumstances, and some of the victorious women from yesterday in Teeter. Here are highlights from yesterday afternoon.
You can see Kappa as our pole team driving it from the front. What I was really impressed with is that Teeter just, what they did was a fake exchange late in the race. And I'm not sure that we'll see that on camera quite yet, but the fake exchange in the attack really established that victory for them from lap 80 on.
We also had some horrific spills yesterday.
Yeah, again, crashes having a big impact on the outcome of the race for the women.
You see Kappa Gamma, the pole sitter. They rode a strong race. And that was one that got me. That was the Army women crash. Just that the face tattoo on the cinders left a lot of scars.
Yeah, she's definitely going to have something to talk about on Monday in class.
There were a variety of mishaps in yesterday's women race, and
that was one of our favorites there, Pi Beta Phi. Got in a wreck which took them out of contention. Here's Teeter off the front.
Getting the go signal from the coach.
Caitlin Van Kooten, a Bloomington native, winning it for Teeter there in the pit. Going nuts. Chris White-Toich, their coach, has really brought them the experience to continue to win. Chris, a former winner with the Cutters, now coaching Teeter and passing on that winning tradition.
much of the fun is the look on the faces of the winners, and that just uncontrollable enthusiasm.
Well, that's what I saw. I had to do the post-race interview, and I went down there and I was trying to get a question out, and I think it was, hey, is everybody who's riding next year? And it broke out in pure pandemonium. We're all coming back.
Yeah, no, it definitely did. It was a very, very neat event.
Looks like they're still wearing their jerseys from yesterday. I'm sure they've been celebrating extensively since the end of yesterday's race.
That's what Bloomington's all about in the spring, Dylan. It's you wear your jersey out to the bars because you get a little bit of street credit here for being a bike racer. So I should say to class as well as to social events. We're still wearing our jerseys well after the race throughout the spring.
And got our radar right there, and so the storm, first part of it anyway, has moved through. So we have a gap, and then some more moisture heading our way as well. So this will come down to an interesting decision. You know there's more rain on the way when you look at radar, and how much of the track will they need to see get drained?
Yeah, you know, Jason, how many times has this race been suspended? Or at least in the recent 10 or 20 runnings. I can't remember in the last 7 times that I've been here.
Well, it's been 60 years, so I'm not a complete history book. We've had a lot of events on the track.
Let's go downstairs to Hans with yesterday's winner, the Teeter.
I'm here with yesterday's race winner, Teeter. You guys rode a great race. Hey, talk about it. How did you do it?
Everyone just did our job. We went on the attack and we're just kind of like, maybe this will work, maybe it won't, but it'll put the pressure on, and we feel good about our field sprint chances. But everyone had awesome burnouts and fast time trials when we needed them, and the yellow was awful at the end because those are great girls that train really hard. So it gave us an advantage, but we hadn't even put this one out for her third set, which was like the biggest bummer of that because she would have killed it. We still won though. Yeah, it was surreal. Like it was like the whole time you're like, I almost crashed on the third to last lap. I don't know who it was, but it was a girl really close, and she I called inside, but she started drifting inside. It was like my wheel and the gutter, and I almost died inside.
Well, congratulations. You all rode a great race. Very good.
To the victors go the spoils, and Teeter, their name on the trophy. They'll get to bring everybody back and say that in 2010 they were 500 champs. And I tell you, all our crew standing out in the downpour with the thunder and lightning and the rest of it, champs as well for hanging tough.
Yeah, they definitely have the rough job out there trying to stay dry.
HDNet really doing a tremendous job in all aspects.
That is the order from 1 through 33, in which they will start single file.
Looks like they're getting a little wet though, even the.
There's Steady Eddie.
He gets no handshake down
right there on the start-finish line.
Yeah, looking for the photo finish.
Never out of focus, never misses a shot. We'll return to Bloomington in a moment.
I think the most memorable moment for Little 500 for me was when we started the team back in 2006. We just worked our tails off, and the best finish we had was the second year I rode for that startup team, Blackheath Bulls. We finished 3rd place, about half a tire behind the Cutters who won.
I remember one year when I was riding, we had a guy that got pinched to the inside, and all of a sudden bikes were going down everywhere in front of me. And fortunately, at the last minute, I was able to see the guy lift my front tire up and jump over the guy and basically avoid going down in a big accident.
Getting ready to hopefully resume racing. I'm trying to get rid of the standing water on the track, which could be a hazard. So we'll look to blow that down the gutter, and we'll be able to get the track in rideable condition, but there's more rain headed our way, and while we have a moment, back down to Hans.
I'm in the Cutters pit. They're getting a crowd reaction right now from the Delts. Apparently it's been like this all day. The Cutters are warming up, getting ready for the race to restart again. Clayton, you're going to be first on the bike. What's the plan?
Well, we technically already won the race once today because they changed the rules so we couldn't have our 4-peat early. But if we have to go to 200 laps, plans to keep the pace, put other people in the pain cave.
All right. Michael, you guys have, looks like 96 laps to go. What's your plan right now? Are you going to try to ride as many laps as you can and set up Eric, or are you guys going to ride aggressive?
We're sticking with the same plan as what we started, ride aggressive and see what happens. Obviously, we blew up the pack before, and we're hoping that happens again.
All right. Eric, you guys blew up the pack before, riding really aggressively, but now it's a new race. You guys start all back together, single file. What's your plan? Have you guys talked about waiting for a sprint or trying to make something happen within 100 laps?
The pack's been moving pretty well in the early part of the race. I think people got tired with the rough track conditions, so we're unsure of how it's going to play out, but we're going to stay aware, react to whatever happens, and if it comes down to a sprint, we can deal with that. If we see an opportunity, we'll take that. We're just going to take it as it comes. Little 5 is a crazy race, and we're here to react and win, so got to see how it goes.
All right, good luck, Eric.
Thank you, Hans. Thoughts?
Well, it's great to see the fans are sticking it out. I think we're in store for some great racing.
I was thinking about all the Delts fans that kind of moved in behind the Cutters pit there. They haven't gone away. One thing is that there's huge Greek presence here at Indiana University, so the fraternities get here very, very early and stake out their spots in the stands, and they stay late. There's the Phi Gamma Delta house still in attendance. Phi Gammas have a really strong presence on campus. They always compete in all the intramurals, and in fact they have the highest point total of any team ever to participate in the race, and points are derived each year. The team in first place gets 33 points, 32, 31 on down the list, and Phi Gamma Delta through 60 years is in the lead.
Blowing the standing water off the track. We had heavy rain come through to stop the race. Hoping to get a restart and get all 200 laps in. 104 already circled today. Cutters trying to become the first team in the history of the Little 500 in 60 years of the event to get 4 straight victories. Back downstairs to Hans.
Phi Delta Theta Pit with their coach, Brian Drummey. Brian, are you happy with how your riders are racing today?
Yeah, we're happy. You know, we had a break a little earlier and happy with the way guys reacted. And then we got a little bit behind when the yellow came out, and then the yellow and then red, I guess. But it looks like, you know, maybe it's a good thing as we're going to bunch back up and get this thing going again. So I'm a little worried about getting guys. Obviously, it's hard for guys to be all warmed up and ready to go and then to cool back down, especially with the rain. But right now it's not raining, and so hopefully we'll be good to go. It's going to take a little while to get back into things, but it looks like they're getting the track in good shape.
Yeah, you guys are starting third now. You've got a strong team and a deep team, and you started to ride really aggressive during the beginning of the race. Is it a similar strategy for the next 96 laps?
I think so. Although, like I said, I want to make sure we're warmed up before we do anything. So I think the best thing to do is to ride smart, ride safe, and then if we see an opportunity or later in the race, if we think we can make an opportunity, then go do it.
Okay. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
104 completed, and here are our top 5 when our race was stopped.
Yeah, you know, you've got to like Phi Delta's chances coming back out. They were riding super aggressive straight away from the start.
I do, and you know, they're going to have to really look to close that gap to Cutters right away.
Hans had talked to the Cutters. It seemed to me like they were going to come out and be aggressive. Same plan.
I don't see it stopping. There's a lot of rain coming, and so I see the same aggressive race tactics continuing. Brian Drummey down on their pit won the race in 2001, so he's got a lot of experience with how to get to the checkered flag.
So interesting, no gaps on a restart.
But a single file.
A single file, right, but no gaps, so it means that everybody starts together.
Let's go back downstairs and check in with Hans.
I'm on the infield here with IndyCar driver Graham Rahal. Graham, what are your reactions so far to the Little 500?
It's pretty cool. It's very similar to what we do. I mean, even with the red flags and stuff. Although, if it were a red flag like this at Indy, I'm sure that we'd have a race. But I don't really think that they want the Cutters to win, if you ask me. So I think that they're just going to restart just to stop that. But the traditions and stuff, I think it's all pretty cool.
If you had to pick a team to win other than the Cutters today, who are you picking?
Well, I don't know. I got a couple buddies in Sigma Chi, so I was hoping for them. But, I mean, I just want to see the Cutters do it just because I tell everybody else hates them.
All right, what do you think about IndyCar and the relation to this? These guys are out here with coaster brakes and gets a little sketchy when it's wet out there. How is it when you're racing IndyCar?
Well, I mean, on the ovals we won't race, so the cars are too quick in the rain. Obviously, around an oval, it'd just be completely unsafe. On the road courses we do, and the cars generally have pretty good grip, and the braking's fairly good, but it definitely separates the men from the boys, so to speak. The really good drivers kind of shine in the rain. But it's completely different. You know, it doesn't really relate. Obviously, they're racing on cinders and stuff, so that's completely different. But, you know, the same issues they face that cause a red flag are the same things that would cause a red flag on a road course, which is standing water. So we'll see.
Did you ever race on dirt courses?
I never did.
Okay.
I never did, but my boss of the last 3 weekends, Sarah Fisher, did a lot, and so she keeps picking on me saying that I need to go try it. So we'll see. You never know.
Have you ever raced on a bike on 2 wheels before?
Never raced, but I do ride quite a lot. It's something that I think a lot of drivers do it for training.
Okay.
So it's fairly common. So it's kind of cool to come out here and see it.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And that really doesn't surprise me. A former rider, Jason Smith, lives in Indianapolis. He lives close to the IRL track, and a lot of his clients, he's a personal trainer. A lot of his clients, he's coaching IRL racers that are trying to stay fit and, you know, handle that endurance of being in a car for some time. So yeah, so they're doing a lot of things like running, like getting out on the bike. So that didn't surprise me at all.
It's interesting to see they have a special machine out here to blow the water off the track. It looks like it's something that they've had to do in the past. You can see some of our fans are getting a little bit tired. Hopefully they'll bring the energy back for the restart. It looks like we're going to have the pit or the pace car come back out again too.
All judges and officials.
This is a great sign.
Now we're
crowd
getting
over the PA and the pace car out.
At your working station.
Getting close to restarting the race.
Thank you.
We're going to have a little window before we get some more moisture in Bloomington.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous. It looks like we could be in store for some more rain. I'm hoping that the officials might let the riders race a little bit longer.
So we'll need about another hour. You know, we're an hour and 4 minutes into racing, and we'll need another hour window. And Dylan, I'm no expert. I hope we can get there. The guys will race hard regardless of whether it's raining or whether they think there's a stop or not. That's one thing that doesn't stop, is really the competitiveness in the racing.
Well, yeah, you know, they're going to have to think about, okay, we're going to have to be aggressive. We can't count on being able to do another 97 laps or 96 laps. But yet at the same time, we have to race. It's kind of, there's so many unknowns right now. It's really hard to have a strategy.
The strategy throughout the day has been be aggressive from all sides. And even with that, and all the challengers that have come their way, the Cutters still, with the race being stopped, are in first place and trying to capture their 4th consecutive Little 500. Well, the rain came down earlier, and with it came the mud and the cinders. We'll come back and get ready to race again in Bloomington. Edition number 60 of the Little 500.
I never went down in a big wreck, but there was one day I rode through 3 of them. It's quite an adrenaline buzz when you get through it and don't go down, but you know, you can get hurt, but you don't think about that. It's like any athlete. If you thought about what could go wrong, you wouldn't do it.
The morning of the race, I was already nervous and I couldn't really talk as it was. And when they were doing the parade lap with all the former winners, my dad and his team came around to my pit and I gave my dad a hug. And as I did, I looked up in the stands and I could see my mom and sister turning around because they were crying so hard. I remember the look on my dad's face and my mom and sister's face, and because I was so nervous, it sort of let me step back and put things into perspective a little bit.
Getting ready to restart the race and conclude our weather delay. 104 of 200 completed. Cutters, Delta Tau, Phi Delta, Grey Goat, Beta Theta.
Hey, hold it down. Okay. This is new ground for all of us. First of all, on behalf of the Student Foundation and all the volunteers and the riders, thanks to you and the fans that have stayed to get going.
It's great to see the crowd.
Riders, we are going to go single file, 1 lap. The next time you cross the start-finish line, we will start scoring the race. Now, listen up. We are going to go 5 yellow laps. 5 yellow scored laps. You are not to pass anybody. You stay single file. During this time, you need to be aware, find out where the wet spots are. So you know, we don't want you going into somewhere until you've had an opportunity to see where you're going. Okay? We're waiting on the computer to reboot it. Time and scoring, that should take just a minute. We will tell you to get back on your bikes, follow the pace car. The pace car will pull off the first time it goes down the backstretch, and then the leader will bring you around at yellow pace. Just be aware, know where you are. Thank you.
Wow, really interesting. I'm surprised to hear that. Sounds like we're in uncharted territory here. We're going to do a couple of laps under yellow so that the riders can get a sense for where the danger spots are on the track. I don't get the sense that there's any real danger out there. I mean, it's a little bit wet, but it's not that big of a deal. What do you think, Jason?
Mixed emotions. Yeah, 5 laps is a bit long to go under yellow. I think we're a little bit overly conservative. Mike Howard was a former rider, and really he's representing the university in a way to make sure that we have a safe race. 5 laps is a bit much, but I guess he's erring on the side of caution.
The other thing is this is bad for the Cutters because they had basically blown the race wide open. And now by having all of the riders start in single file behind the pace car, once they get past those yellows and hopefully we get a green flag, it's essentially all back together.
That's a tremendous point. Since we're in uncharted territory, one of the thoughts that went through my mind was, do you start with the same distance that you had stopped? And the answer is no. Everybody that's on that lead lap or on a certain lap starts together.
It's interesting the riders
on the lead lap.
You know, you essentially have all the teams on the lead lap kind of talking about, well, okay, what are we going to do here? And, you know, maybe there's a little bit of a combine getting created against the Cutters.
We thought that from the beginning.
Well, there's no question. I really believe that.
Maybe just 1 or 2 slight adjustments.
And I think the other teams have shown that today. It'll be interesting to see how we're obviously going to have under yellow. It's not going to be very exciting, right? I think the riders are going to be looking around, trying to get a feel for the track, shake out the legs. Then we'll be racing.
That was my initial thought when he said the 5 laps, not to examine the track, but more to get their legs back into the competitive part and trying to, you know, from an official standpoint, they're always very concerned with regard to injury.
So now here's a question that I have that I think we need to get some clarity on. Are all the riders back on the lead lap now?
No. No, and Mike didn't say that, but there's 5 teams on the lead lap.
Okay.
And that's Cutters, you're looking at Grey Goat Cycling, Delta Tau Delta, Phi Delta Theta, and Beta Theta Pi. So although they all start together, similar to the race, that we have teams that are 1 lap down, 2 lap down, 3 lap down, but they're all getting started together. So it's dependent upon which lap you're on.
Your Schwinn bicycle.
So here we are, we're going to start back again behind the pace car under yellow for 5 laps. Again, as we've all set up here, that's a long time, especially kind of peeking over my shoulder at the radar here. I can see another big band coming. I think it would be really unfortunate to get the race started again and have to stop it again. The teams on the lead lap have all got to be thinking about this possibly coming down to a 5-lap race.
Eric Young and the Cutters will lead the pack.
We'll have 5 yellow laps.
5 laps.
You know, the riders have got to be cold, even though it's relatively warm for the fact that it's raining out there. They were racing, they came to a complete standstill. They had to sit in the pits. They're still wearing wet clothes. And now doing this kind of like slow parade around the track is not going to help.
We do have the official standings here, and what we're seeing is that Cutters is in the lead, team number 1. Delta Tau Delta is in 2nd. It's a red team. I'm a little bit confused. I've got some misinformation on 3rd, but I'm showing Phi Delta Theta's in 3rd, Grey Goat Cycling in 4th, and Beta Theta Pi in 5th. And all of those teams are on the lead lap, which is lap 104 of a 200-lap race.
The real losers here are the Black Key Bulls, who are really riding strong early on, and then also Sigma Chi is down in 9th place. You know, they were really riding strong. I think they had a mishap and lost a lap.
Phi Kappa Psi is also 1 lap down at 103. So I'll just rattle off the teams that are 1 lap down. That's Black Key Bulls, Phi Kappa Psi, Sigma Nu, Sigma Chi. And then 2 laps down, Hoosier Climber, Right Cycling, Crew. 3 laps down, Phi Gamma Delta, Delta Upsilon, Delta Chi, Sigma Phi Epsilon, Phi Kappa Phi. That's how we line back up.
So the warm-up lap is completed. Now the yellow flag back out. And they'll do 5 laps underneath the yellow flag to find out if there are any hazards for them on the track.
Again, doing these laps under yellow with the intent of trying to see where the track is slippery, where there's some puddles, you know, what the track is going to feel like again. Again, this is uncharted territory for the race organizers. I got to say, though, the radar doesn't look good.
We're going to come down to, at the end of these laps, gentlemen, to a 91-lap race, weather permitting.
I think what's going to be really interesting is we're going to have a 5-up sprint. And that's really going to be exciting. It'd be fun to hear what all the fans think. I'm sure everyone is a little bit confused. Hopefully we're doing a good job of making it clear on what's going on here. But I think essentially what's going to happen is that we're going to get the green flag. We're going to have 5 teams on the lead lap all racing for the win. But we're not going to make it to the finish, gentlemen, because I see a huge, huge thunderstorm coming on.
And then here's the next question. Are we going to have another delay and wait into the night, or are we going to call the race? Because we've already had one stoppage that wasn't a race completion, and we need to make a point that, some of the young cutters, not Eric Young, but was that Clayton Felton, they were talking to young Clayton, a little bit misinformed the difference between a checkered flag and a red flag. Listen, Professor, I'm happy to educate the young man. That's what I do for a living. Happy to educate him that they did not win the race and the rules had not been changed. The rules of the race were that with weather, it will be delayed, not that with a red flag does not mean the race is over.
No, you're right. It was a little bit of misinformation that I think Clayton had, and I think it's a overwhelming feeling, really, that a lot of the teams are against the cutters today, and he had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder with that comment. And I know Clayton, and I know as he graduates, he'll see the bigger picture that this race is really for all the teams. It's not just about winning. And we owe a lot of credit to the foundation for putting it on. They'll do a good job to follow those rules, make it a safe race, and we'll close out the finish the best we can.
It's kind of exciting getting into uncharted territory. I mean, we had some rain, a little bit of everything makes last year's race underneath, 75 degrees and sunny skies feel fairly pedestrian.
In professional cycling, they can shorten events, they can shorten the race due to weather. Sometimes, an event like a criterium will be scheduled for 90 minutes, and what will happen is when they get towards the end of the race, they'll show lap cards. So when they get down towards the end, they'll say, okay, 10 laps to go. Well, sometimes if the weather's really bad, they might actually throw those lap cards up early. So this is an analogous situation here. We're waiting for the green flag. We think we have 93 laps to go. It's starting to rain again. If we get the green, it would be interesting to see if the officials just say, okay, 2 laps to go, and that's the finish.
I asked that question earlier because that's actually what I was hoping for as a fan.
Yeah.
But the answer I got was closer to safety. And it's that if we need to stop the race and it's raining, I got a safety answer. And if we need to stop the race because it's raining, that means conditions are unsafe and we're not going to have a sprint.
Well,
so as a fan, I was a little disappointed.
Let me help you as a journalist, and then you pose a follow-up question and say, well, can we teeter on things being not quite as safe as we'd like to have a finish and a completion to the race so everybody can celebrate and feel good? Because what you want is all the competitors to say, you know what, whether or not the cutters win or not, at least we had a shot. And we knew we had 5 laps to try to get them. And we had better than us for 5 laps, then more power to them.
2 things. But one, I think what's going to happen is we're going to get the green, and then instead of racing to the checker flag, guys are going to be racing to the red flag.
Absolutely
Second thing,
agree.
10 years from now, nobody's going to care how somebody won. It's just who won.
2 excellent points, Mr. Casey.
So here we are. We're going to come around this corner. We're looking for green.
We'll see if we are getting green.
And we're racing. It's raining, but we're racing. Immediately, Eric Young from the cutters setting the pace. We have 5 riders on the lead lap.
Race has restarted, the rain has rejoined us, and the 60th edition of the Little 500 back in play, lap 109.
Eric looking over his shoulder saying, okay, now it's somebody else's turn to take some opportunity, take the lead up here. They can feel the rain again, so the thought is going through their mind, what's gonna happen? Are we gonna stop? Are we racing to that red flag? Because that's essentially what's happening right now.
The smartest position to be on right now is on the front, or very, very close to the front.
Nobody pulling through. Eric Young still on the front.
You see Grego cycling pulling through there. Right, Dylan, because you do get a 1-lap buffer. They'll give us a yellow before a red.
That's right.
So there is at least 1-lap warning. So all these teams are going to be, staying up front, just being ready to make a move if we do see that.
Well, yeah, you know, and especially if they throw the yellow flag and the riders are on the back side, they need to look across so that when they cross the finish line, they're in first.
Theta Theta Pi in front.
So, you know, even though we have only 5 teams on the lead lap, you see the other teams who are racing for essentially 6th place also trying to maintain a good pack position.
Well, it's an opportunity for the teams that are 1 lap, 2 lap, 3 laps down. They've rejoined the pack and perhaps make up some ground. So they're excited about that, really.
Yeah, they're back in the race.
Phi Delta on the lead.
A little bit surprised the Phi Delta rider there doesn't have any form of eyewear on.
Baxter Burnworth.
You know, sometimes when it's raining like this and it's dirty, it's just better not to have any glasses at all. So we're hearing from the officials that scoring is done when the yellow flag is actually displayed. So at this point, it's almost a lottery as to who's pulling.
See Grey Goat cycling on the front. Phi Delta's getting comfortable. The race has really calmed down a little bit here as we come back out. The pace is calmed, which really wasn't what I was thinking. I thought we'd come out hot and heavy and continue with that just blistering pace that we had right before the yellow.
Well, especially since it started raining before we even got the green flag, so the riders had to be thinking about the fact that something could happen. 113 laps into a 200-lap race. Rain really playing havoc on this, not just for the riders, but for the promoters. Everybody's having a really hard time seeing, you know, no glasses, it's raining, all the dirt. I can tell you after doing some races in muddy conditions, you have dirt coming out of your eyes for days. And I'm sure it's going to be the same for these guys.
Grey Goat, Zach Trogdon, now dropping back to 3rd.
Here's cinders, Dylan. Those little cinders, they stay around for some time. You're going to have them in their teeth and their eyes.
Yeah. So it looks like a team coming in to do an exchange, and Eric Young just paying close attention and sitting on that wheel.
Pi Kappa Phi going to come in and do an exchange. They are not on the lead lap.
And as the rain picks up, you see the pace pick up a little bit. I'm a little bit shocked now. So Sigma Nu, a team that's not on the lead lap, is on the pole right now.
Well, I think they're pulling through to try to make an exchange, right, to be in the front. And you're going to see some of the other teams trying to capitalize off that. Here's Grey Goat Cycling. Are they doing an exchange, or is he actually going to try to take a lap back? Oh, and we have a crash. Looked like somebody got stuck on the gutter there and went all the way to the outside.
Another rider still down. Air Force Cycling has a rider down.
You know, you can see somebody just getting onto the gutter there and actually sliding onto the grass, and then it just creating a ripple effect. Also, that exchange, that rider doing an exchange there got caught up in traffic.
Kevin Skelton took the spill for Air Force.
Still have a green flag, though.
And more of a calm, steady rain than the downpour we had earlier.
For me as a former rider, I'm not so sure the conditions are making it unsafe. I think the riders lost a lot of focus there in that time lapse that we had between the starts, and that's kind of what I see happening.
That's right. We see the rider from Grey Goat Cycling really being aggressive right now. It's great to see. You know, he's going to try to take a lap back, and he's got a quarter lap right now.
See that blistering pace down the backstretch. That's Sigma Chi just rolling off the front.
Well, that's right, because Sigma Chi is also a lap down. So they might be trying to take advantage of this and bridge up to the Grey Goat Cycling.
Grey Goat going to do an exchange.
That's Black Key Bowls, team number 7, Delta Tau Delta. And Cutter's holding that position on the front. Phi Delta holding that position on the front. Grey Goat Cycling sitting second wheel right now. awareness just really comes to mind. You've got to be really aware right now with that huge pack, everybody's back together. You don't really know which teams are on the lead lap, so it's all about awareness for the riders.
Gray Goat and Cutters.
It looked like Gray Goat was going to come into an exchange, and Eric from the Cutters was just following that wheel. They both kind of sat up at the same time. Eric being very attentive right now. Riders from other teams really trying to take advantage of the fact that it's all back together. You see our rider from Phi Kappa Psi there really going up the front. Eric Young, again, being attentive, following that wheel. You know, it's easier for him to follow the wheel so that he can stay in front. It takes a little bit of energy, but it's a lot safer. It's a lot better position to be in than letting other riders come around you. You know, it looks like Eric is really throwing down some effort here. He might have seen an opportunity to, again, take control of the race. Guys behind him are really looking over their shoulders, trying to figure out what's going on, and I think those are lapped riders that are chasing. I don't know if that's Beta Theta Pi trying to bridge the gap right there.
There's a Cutter rider in the pit. There's a Cutter rider in the pit, so Clayton Feldman's going to get on for the Cutters. Eric's got a big gap. He's kind of weaving through traffic. Oh, they've got to keep it safe.
Yeah, it's great precision by Eric right there, kind of threading the needle. A great exchange over to Clayton.
Good job by all the teams there. Beta Theta Pi had a good exchange there on the lead lap.
Cutters trying to make history. And went 4 straight in the leader's last exchange.
Well, it's complex because you've got 3 teams out there, which is it's really good execution, good communication. You saw a couple of the teams say, okay, timing's not good.
Yeah.
That's just where awareness and knowledge of the race and feel needs to come into play. Just deciding that's not the right time to do an exchange.
That's right.
Too crowded.
That's right. The rider from Black Key Bulls who was waiting for the exchange actually said, hey, put his hands up, said, hey, I see you, Eric. No problem. You know, go in front of me. I won't move.
So, since it's such an unknown, what I sense is happening is all the coaches just want to have at least their number 1, number 2 riders on the track right now, and they've got to be up front. So I see that in Delta Tau Delta, and I see that in the Cutters. Just trying to keep all the strongest riders on the bike so they can stay in lead position in case another yellow does come.
Can you afford to keep your strongest rider on for an essentially 91-lap race?
I don't think you can afford not to.
Delta Tau with an exchange.
Yeah, you know, the other thing that's happening right now is Phi Delta Theta is off the front. Clayton from Cutters is forced to chase. He's looking for help from the Black Key Bulls. Of course, they're a lap down, so they don't really have a lot of incentive to help Phi Kappa Psi. They're coming around Clayton maybe to help give a pull there. Clayton's losing a little bit of ground on him.
Phi Delta Theta. Team number 6 with the lead.
Oh, and a huge move right there. That's Nick Savinsky on the bike for them. He's established not quite a quarter lap, but he's got 200 meters on the field right now, and he's just burying himself on the backside.
Savinsky taking command.
Cutter's getting a little bit of help from the Delta Chi, but you know, again, Delta Chi's down a lap too.
Great ride that young man's having today. He started the race for him. He's going to, as you can see, Clayton chasing. There's Phi Deltas coming in for an exchange. We'll see if we regroup or does Phi Delta Theta just attack and continue to try to go with this.
Christopher West on the bike.
It's a moment. It's really a decision point, Dylan. I mean, he's got to think about, you know, do I need a wheel or should I go?
It looks like he sat up. He said, okay, I'm going to wait. You see Sigma Chi there chasing. Clayton from Cutters sitting there in second. Looks like Gray Goat coming up on the inside.
Coming through hard.
Yeah, maybe doing another exchange. Actually, it's a great time to do an attack when you have 2 riders that have just put in a huge effort.
Rain is steady.
Looks like he's coming in for an exchange, and boy, he's coming in hot. It's a bike to... Whew. Wow, well done.
Perfectly executed. That was, you know, that's a textbook really for those folks at home. Gray Goat with a tremendous exchange.
Adam Mercer on now for Gray Goat. Daniel Brown off the bike.
IU Student Foundation thanks our corporate sponsor, B97.
Grey Goats really riding a tremendous race. I'm impressed with the way they're riding, with the way they're doing their exchanges.
U.S. Army ROTC, IMU Dining Services, Sodexo.
Let's go downstairs and visit with Hans.
Come in to find out the Theta pit. They were just on the front pushing the pace. Talked to their coach and he said that they're just warming the riders back up. They're getting their legs fresh again, getting ready to race and make this aggressive.
It's been the buzzword of the day. Get aggressive, stay aggressive. 127 laps turned, trying to get to 200 and complete this 50-mile race and find a champion for the 2010 Little 500, the 60th edition of the race.
Well, you know, the Cutters blew the race wide open before the race was suspended, and now all the other teams have a new lease on life. So it's great to see them taking that opportunity to really make it hard for them. An aggressive race is the only chance that the other teams have.
So I'd like to see that live true out of Fido right now. You know, they've got an opportunity. They've ridden hard the first 100 laps. We heard it from their coach, but I don't see it quite on the track right now. He'll have an opportunity. There's some faster teams coming on the outside. Fido doesn't grab the wheel, but Grey Goat continues on. Beta's on that wheel.
Ryan Keel putting the hammer down for Grey Goat.
Yeah, you know, we haven't really talked about Beta Theta Pi too much today, but they're really coming out of the woodwork to show themselves as a real contender for this race. You know, we see both Beta Theta Pi and Grey Goat Cycling coming in for an exchange. Having two teams on the lead lap do exchanges at the same time is a smart move because they both can work together to regain contact with the lead group.
Zach Trogdon replaces Ryan Keel for Grey Goat.
Grey Goat really just looks fresh to me. Every time I see a rider on the bike, he's kind of working his legs out, you know, keeping them fresh. Exchanges are on point, and they're riding really well today. That's Grey Goat Cycling, team number 3, sitting on the Cutters wheel.
70 laps to go. With the restart, an entirely new race, 5 teams on the lead lap. Cutters again in great position, controlling everything. Phi Kappa Psi doing a great job too. You know, they've also come to the front, riding a smart race. Phi Delta Theta taking a pull on the front. It looks like everybody's kind of settling into a good rhythm. I have a feeling in the next couple of laps we're going to see another explosion. You know, it's still a long ways to go. It's too early to kind of let the race settle into this, you know, basic pace. It's going to be up to the other teams to make the Cutters really work hard.
Christopher West in the white jersey in front.
And Dylan, I don't know if you remember this from bike racing, but if you're looking behind you, you know, the race is up the road. You can tell the pace is slowed a little bit, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're 5-6 riders wide right now going into turn 1.
And he's scooting outside.
Again, a lot of lap traffic still in there as well, which tells you that the pace isn't that high. I expect to see it get strung out.
They've gotten comfortable and the rain has let up. So I think the teams are anticipating right now going to all 200. We're on lap 132 of 200. And I think the teams are they're comfortable in their pace again. And what we see in the middle parts of every race is the pace starts to come down. And I see that a little bit on the track as Clayton picks it up.
Yeah, it looks like a couple of riders preparing to do an exchange.
Yeah, we've got the Cutters coming in for an exchange. That's why he's accelerating. He's got a good gap on the field.
Clayton Feldman coming in for an exchange. He was in there for a long time. Sid Mackay doing an exchange.
Feldman bypasses the exchange and keeps going.
That's what we call a fakie, right? The Cutters had one of their riders out there looking like they were going to do an exchange, but didn't do it. Clayton now has a gap. Phi Delta Theta is forced to chase. Grey Goat Cycling sitting on his wheel. I'm sure Phi Delta Theta is hoping that they get some help. Cutters again just trying to blow this race wide open. Not coming in for an exchange.
We've got 2 laps of fake exchanges there for the Cutters. Clayton continues on, he gives him the one finger.
Clayton Feldman already has 2 little 500 titles under his belt, trying to race for 3 years and capture 3 little 500 titles.
At the top of your screen, you see the lead group trying to chase Clayton. Looks like Delta is really trying to close that gap.
So Clayton's gap, which went from significant, and the choice is to ride a couple more laps have given the field an opportunity to group back together.
Oh, careful there, looking over your left shoulder, somebody on your right. It's a great way to crash.
Still comes in off the front. Michael Schroeder picks it up. Really effective exchange.
Yeah, great exchange.
And you see he's not elated because I think in his head he knows, he had a good gap to bring it into the second rider, and then those extra 2 laps really didn't do a whole lot for him.
No, in fact, maybe they should have done an exchange there earlier.
Agreed. That's exactly what Beta is doing. It's a similar situation, right? Always trying to get a gap on the field, give the rider getting on the bike a little bit of advantage, and that's what that Beta rider is digging deep for right now.
Yeah. And Beta. Again, 2 teams on the lead lap doing exchanges at the same time is smart. They'll both be incentivized to work together to get back up to the lead.
We've got the Delts up there. The Delts now in 3rd. The riders assort themselves.
Jason, your point was well made that you get the sense with this level of rain and the way the track looks, this is going to get to 200, and that seems to be the way all the riders and coaches are responding now.
Yeah, we can only hope for that. I think the unknown of do we pull out a yellow because of safety at some point between 100 and 200 is really too much for me to handle as a former rider and a fan. I want to see him get to 200. I think they all do too, and I know the officials do as well, so we're working towards that. Dylan's still got the radar going, and
yeah, it's not looking promising, but so far so good.
And we're racing, that's the important thing. So I think we've got Hans down in a pit, see if we can get a word from him.
I'm with the Cutters coach, Jason Fowler. Jason, the official just came over to you and gave you a warning for backing up too far for an exchange, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We were just getting a big running start for the exchange, but I guess it was just a little too far down, so not a big deal. We'll bring it back and keep it close.
Okay. You told me before the race that you'd be happy if something happened before a sprint, and a sprint would be your fallback plan. Are you happy with how things are playing out right now?
Yeah, I mean, we really laid the cards on the table towards the, before the red flag, because we knew the weather was coming in, so we laid it on the track. We laid it all on the track. Hey!
All right. Well, there's a word from Cutters coach Jason Fowler. One interesting fact, 80% of the time in the past decade, the winner of ITTs has been the winning race team. So we'll see if Eric Young and the Cutters can do it again today.
Thank you, Hans. Delta Tau making the move. James Cartwright.
You can see Michael put on some knee warmers there to try to stay warm. That's a smart idea. Some of the other riders also putting on knee or leg warmers. You can imagine the squishy tennis shoes right now are adding an element to the race.
This isn't a good situation for Delta Tau Delta. They've got a chase back on. Been riding strong all day. You don't want to see that happen. And he's doing it pretty effectively there.
Yeah, you can see him in the top of your screen just trying to remake contact with the lead group. Grey Goat Cycling just riding on the pole, not too hard. Both Cutters, Fidel right up there. Sigma Chi coming in to do an exchange. Fortunately, they were looking really strong earlier, but lost a lap.
And the Cutters go out again.
And the Cutters, 3-time champions, continuing to race aggressively.
So you see Michael really drilling it here, possibly coming down the backstretch to come into the front to do an exchange.
Probably about 15 meters behind.
We've got a rider in the pit for Cutters, so this just means Michael Schroeder's well marked. The other teams are all over this exchange.
Watch the pit area, see.
Phi Delta Theta just marking him.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if Phi Delta Theta took this opportunity to lay down an attack.
And there goes our leaders. Phi Delta Cutters are going to have to do a little bit of work right now.
Yeah, and it's good to put them on the defensive. You know, whenever they do an exchange, if the other teams drill it, it makes it harder for them to regain contact with the back of the group.
Zachary Lusk now on the bike for the Cutters. Schroeder with the breather.
Looks like a pretty stern talking to that Schroeder was getting to in the pit.
Beta Theta putting on a good effort. Looks like they're coming in for an exchange. Same with Grey Goat Cycling. Again, we're seeing some of these teams time their exchanges at the same exact moment.
Beta Theta and Grey Goat with new riders.
I think teams like Beta Theta Pi and Grey Goat, whose pits are right next to each other, they've got nothing to lose by working together, by getting their exchanges in rhythm. And I think they've been really strong at that today.
We're going to step aside and we'll come back for the conclusion of the 60th running of the Little 500 here in a soggy Bloomington, Indiana.
The 60th Little 500 continues in a moment.
Probably the most nerve-wracking experience was starting the race my senior year after having a wreck at the beginning of the race my junior year. So coming back out, knowing what it feels like to be in the middle of that pileup and the apprehension of that and really watching every move, I think gave me some extra nerves going into it.
You never really know what it's like until you race your first Little 500 race. I very specifically remember getting out on the track. I didn't start the race, so the race had already been going, and getting out on the track to receive my first exchange. And it was my older sister bringing the bike into me, so that was a really cool experience. And she passed off the bike, and I got in the pack, and there was just this rush of energy, and it was one of the best moments of my life.
And we're working our way toward a conclusion on a weather-delayed and now soggy track, the Little 500.
What we missed under that break was really Phi Delta Theta riding extremely strong. They've got a fresh rider out there. The Cutters had to close, so that's Eric Young on the bike for Cutters that closed a significant gap, brought it back together.
In that block, there's our top 5 riders.
These top 5 guys have got to think about winning right now. That's what's going to get them to the finish line. We've got basically almost 50 laps to go.
So what I'm saying right now is if you want to beat the Cutters, now's your chance. You know, actually not now with Eric on the bike, but when Eric and Clayton are off the bike, that's your opportunity to attack them, and that's your opportunity to win. Phi Delta Theta has shown that. I'm not seeing that out of Delta Tau Delta. Interesting thing about Delts is Courtney Bishop, their coach, has coached Team Major Taylor in the past. And every year that I've seen the race, Team Major Taylor waits for the sprint, doesn't ride that aggressive. The team that's really mixing it up is Grey Goat, Phi Delta Theta. And so I think if someone's going to beat the Cutters, they've got to come out of somewhere and make this happen.
Yeah, definitely Grey Goat Cycling and Phi Delta Theta have been making this race. The Cutters have done a great job of controlling it and keeping themselves in the race at the front. Of course, earlier we saw them blow it apart, but it looks like now everyone is thinking about a sprint.
50 laps to go.
And guys, in the field right now, you know, Eric won off the front in the sprint finish last year. He won ITTs. You know, he's established himself. So, guys, you've got to change the race, and we've got 50 laps to do so.
U.S. Army ROTC.
You see, I think that's Savinsky on the bike for Phi Delta's getting comfortable.
U.S. LLC, Rogers Group Incorporated, the Student Media.
You know, definitely a strategy that we've seen coming out of the Cutters all day long is that when a rider from another team does basically what they call a burnout to do an exchange, he gets on their wheel right away. And it's a great tactic because you're not using up any more energy than anybody else is, but you're essentially establishing the first position. When that rider comes in and does an exchange, you're there, you're on the front. Now you're kind of looking around, seeing, okay, what's gonna happen now?
Gets right back into the drafting position.
Yeah, again, Sigma News gonna do an exchange. He's sitting on that wheel. It's a really good tactic.
Well, our rain has remained steady. Light rain. Bad news is lightning 8 to 20 miles away.
As they come around.
You see us right there highlighted here in Bloomington. We already had one stoppage. The track looks like it's in pretty good shape, holding up. We haven't had any heavy rain, and the biggest concern, and you talked about it, Jason, from the race organizer standpoint, is safety, and lightning is the big one that really puts things at a screeching halt.
Yeah, I think we're going to continue to race in the rain. What I think stopped it last time was that it felt like a thunder and a lightning that was within at least a mile of us. So
it didn't feel like one. It was one, and it was close.
It was right next door. So if you're in McNutt Quad right now, you stay put. No, I take that back. Come out and enjoy some bike racing. It doesn't get any better than the 60th running.
Well, the team's really going to have to pay attention here, especially if they're thinking about calling the race. Tell the riders looking to their coaches for input, really paying attention.
Just on the rider's face, you know, we see some of the family here at the Little 500, but on the riders' faces, I see so much focus whenever it begins to rain. It's just that sense of we're not really sure the race could be called. You can see it in Eric's face right now.
1 minute and 35 seconds.
Eric Young riding for the Cutters and Nick Savinsky for Phi Delta Theta.
The Phi Delts, team 6. In second, Grey Goat Cycling, team number 3. Third,
Young, Savinsky.
Fourth, the Cutters, team number 1. Fifth, Beta Theta Pi, team number 5. Then you have 4 teams, 1 lap down, and they're riding within 7 seconds of each other. Sigma Chi, team number 8. Sigma Nu, team number 21.
Jostling and jockeying continues.
A little bit like a points race in track or something, Dylan. You can see the guys kind of, they're all looking at each other and waiting for who's going to make that move.
Yeah, that's right. You know, I see a rider from Delta Del Delta down here in the pit. It looks like he's going to do an exchange. Again, Cutters executing that strategy of just following and always maintaining that lead position. It's been working for them so far. It's a really smart way to ride a bike race at the front. You know, of course, now he's soft pedaling a little bit.
Stewart passes off to Leonard.
Phi Delta Theta, the Cutters, Beta Theta Pi, Grey Goat Cycling. Coming back up now, Delta Del Delta.
Black Key Bulls, a team that's a lap down, working hard to try to get that back.
Notice Sigma Chi's following him.
Yeah, team number 7 is 1 down. Team number 8, Sigma Chi is 1 down. So you see, they're trying to get that back, and Cutters aren't letting them go.
The exchange for Black Key Bulls. So Sigma Chi hanging on to 6th place now.
You get a look at the slow pace, and I think it's a lot to do with Eric Young on the bike right now for the Cutters. The other teams are really just queuing off of him. So you've got a team on the pole right now, Sigma Chi. It's a lap down, and then you've got the leaders.
And then side by side in 4th and 5th, Grey Goat Cycling and Delta Del Delta.
Right, just kind of, I get the sense they're just kind of waiting, you know, marking the Cutters, seeing who's next to move the bike away.
Black Key Bulls, team number 7.
Yeah, it does seem like everybody's waiting for something to happen. You know, of course, other riders on the track, we have some riders that are a lap, maybe even a couple laps down. Sigma Chi riding at the front, being aggressive. Of course, they're down a lap, unfortunately. But they're still racing. Them and Black Key Bulls also on the same lap and essentially racing for 6th place. See Beta Theta Pi going hard again. Cutters following that wheel.
Betas, it looks like they've got a rider out, so they'll be coming in for an exchange. And again, that's just being marked by the Cutters there. It's a rider exchange, so they'll keep the same bike.
Anderson hands it off the green.
Look at Cutters, they're taking an opportunity. It looks like they're doing an attack.
Moving into the lead.
Phi Delta Theta is forced to chase.
Phi Delta Theta right behind them. And Grey Goat Cycling. Here comes Delta Del Delta.
Let's go downstairs and check in with Hans.
Well, the weather's picking up a little bit down here. It's raining a little bit harder. The wind is picking up, and the clouds are looking a little bit darker. Now, if there's another red flag in this race, I was told that they're just going to call the race. And so I've been noticing that the cutters are coming across the start-finish line first almost every lap. They've got to be thinking about that, and they look like they're prepared.
Clayton Feldman now will get on the bike. Thank you, Hans.
40 laps to go, raining, getting a little bit thicker. Seeing the officials starting to talk a little bit amongst themselves down on the start-finish line. Riders, everybody's looking around, trying to get information from their coaches, trying to figure out what's happening.
Yeah, it's all about information, right? So there's no radios out there for these guys, so they're relying on their coaches and pit boards.
Great exchange. Right back in at the front.
Matthew Keel takes the bike for Grey Goat. Are we going to get to 200? Will the race be called due to weather? Will we have another delay?
Steve McQuay on the bike there for Black Key Bowls. Black Key Bowls, of course, being a lap down. Delta Tau Delta is not, so they're your leader, the team in red. Cutters are in second. Phi Delta Theta in third.
Well, it's hard enough to try to win a race. It's really, really hard to try to win a race when you don't know where the finish line actually is. Delta Tau. Nick Leonard.
You know, the riders are really trying to maintain that position out front, especially because it's wet. Also, it's going to be harder to pass on the outside. So the advantage of drafting is not as important if you're not able to pass, especially with these slick conditions, and it's getting windier right now.
Wind is picked up. The rain is picked up a little as well.
You know, we see a couple of riders in front of Clayton, in front of the other riders on the lead lap that are actually a couple laps down. It's interesting to see that they're letting that happen. It's not the safest place to be. I think at this point, everybody's trying to conserve some energy. It's probably really cold out there. The wind is picking up.
As they come past us now here at the start-finish line for 164 laps. Delta Tau Delta. The Cutters and Phi Delta Theta side by side. The Betas.
See Delta Chi right next to the Cutters there. Delta Chi's a couple laps down. You see Phi Delta Theta on the front. As a coach, that's certainly where you want your guys right now.
Delta Tau Delta right second. The Betas, the Cutters, Grey Goat Cycling. Then you have Grey Goat. Let's correct that. We have Black Key Bowls.
Phi Delta in white, Delta Tau in red. Cutters in the yellow jersey. Lap 165.
Everyone's just really comfortable to let the laps get eaten up right now. You know, you don't see a lot of acceleration. I think this is what you feel in a normal race without the rain. We're at 165 with 45 laps from the finish, and people are getting comfortable. I think hopeful that we'll get to the finish. So the lap speeds come down a little bit, and I'm just looking for the fireworks to get picked back up right now by Delta Tau Delta or Phi Delta Theta, really.
Yeah, the fans are definitely excited for the finish. You can feel the energy in the crowd, even with the electricity in the air. Once we get into that final window of laps, it's really going to be about the setup for the sprint. So you'll see, you know, a couple of exchanges happening towards the end. and then it's going to be really about putting in the rider to finish off the race.
Yeah, absolutely, Dylan. It's all about, you know, how rested is your last rider? What is the set like? What is his last set that he rides before the sprint? What are the setup sets? Those are all things that are going to factor into the finish. And then if you don't want to sprint, it's how do you make the race before you get to 200, before you get to 195, right?
Yeah, that's right. If you're a team like Phi Delta Theta or maybe Beta Theta Pi and you don't want it to come to a sprint, maybe you're thinking about waiting until cutters or Phi Gamma Psi does an exchange and then using that opportunity to launch an attack. Of course, as you mentioned earlier, Beta Theta Pi, coached by the former coach of the Major Taylor team, actually likes the field sprint, so maybe they'll just wait.
Yeah, that's Delts. Courtney Bishop, I think they're looking for a sprint. But I don't think Phi Delta Theta is looking for a sprint.
Here comes Phi Delta Theta.
So we're getting reports that Fiji thinks that they're back on the lead lap. That's an interesting development. We haven't talked about Fiji all day long. A strong team in the past.
Oh, without a doubt, team number 11, Phi Gams. We'll wait till we get the official ruling on that. Very strong program. They're coached by Todd Cornelius. Jim Loman's always in their pit. They're just a really strong house on campus that always has a good showing in the race. You see Phi Delta's coming in. This is going to be crucial.
Phi Delta, Delta Tau Delta both coming in to do an exchange. Grey Goat Cycling on the front looking around to find out what's happening behind him. Cutters again just in great position. Beta Theta Pi just following. Coach clearly happy with that set from Phi Delta Theta.
Here comes Black Key Bulls.
You can see the Fijis up there in the top left-hand corner of your screen. Apparently, we're getting reports that they're also back on the lead lap.
My side's also with an exchange.
Riders signaling to their coach, okay, I'm going to do 2 more laps.
So that's Phi Gamma Delta on the front right now. We're just getting a lot of discussion. One of our colleague Hans may be able to figure that out, but I'm getting rumors that someone in their pit has come to the press box and is trying to establish that Fijis are on the lead lap, team number 11.
Delta, Grey Goat Cycling together.
Well, they better race like they're on the lead lap so that they can work it out later.
Exactly. You see him falling off a little bit right there. He's got to keep that position. He's coming in for an exchange.
Yeah, we're down with 29 laps to go. Again, you know, the team's starting to do those exchanges to set it up for the finish. What's the ideal number of laps to do the final set for?
The last rider on the bike?
Yeah.
It really varies by rider, but what we've seen in recent years are shorter and shorter last sets. I used to say, 10, 12 laps, but now what I've seen in the recent years is it's 5 to 7 lap final sets by the sprinters. What really factors into that is you need a strong setup man. So it goes back to the team aspect of this race. You don't want to touch the bike till the end. You want a gap when you get the bike. Right, so you're not making up ground, so you're just right in the middle of the thick of things.
So for the cutters, we've seen Clayton out there a lot. Obviously, Eric also. They might be saving Michael Schroeder and Zachary Lusk for these final couple laps, and then hand it over to maybe Eric, or maybe Clayton will finish it off.
Let's check in with Hans and get his thoughts.
If this race comes down to a sprint, I think you're going to want your sprinter on the bike with about 4 to 5 laps to go. That gives them enough time to catch up after a burn-in, get settled into the pack, and then fight for position. Everybody's going to be looking at Eric Young because he's been dominant all year. He had a mishap in missing out his chain. He had something wrong with his chain, so he wasn't able to compete all the way through that sprinting competition, but he did win individual time trials, and that's 2 years in a row for him. So everybody's going to be keying off him, and I think if you're going to beat him, you've got to make an attack with about 10 laps to go, because like 9 times out of 10, he's going to win that final sprint.
Thank you, Hans.
And that's really a great point by Hans. It's just that, last year's champ Eric Young's back for the Cutters, so it's hard to think that you can beat him in a sprint. The other teams are certainly talented. Beta Theta Pi and Delta Tau Delta both both with some fast
So in
finishes.
the lead at lap 170, Phi Delta Theta, team number 6, 1 hour 49 minutes and 5 seconds. Greg
Phi Delta
Cycling,
Theta in the white
second, team number 3.
jersey, the head of the pack.
The Cutters, team number
Theta
1.
Pi following.
Beta Theta Pi, team number 5. In 5th, team number 4, Delta Tau Delta, 1 second behind. In 6th, team number 21, Sigma Nu,
Actually, I think
1
Phi
lap
Deltas
down.
have a good chance in the sprint as
Then
well.
it's
Steve
Phi
Sharp
Delta
is their
Pi,
sprinter.
team number
He
8,
won
Sigma
Missing
Pi.
Out, which is a Spring Series event on the track.
Team number 7.
So I think he'll be on the bike for Phi Deltas. And you know, either way we finish today, it's going to be extremely exciting.
Trying to beat each other, trying to get 25 more laps in ahead of whatever Mother Nature has in store.
We now have scored 175 laps. And in the lead, Phi Delta
25 to
Theta
go.
Through that second
Can the
turn.
Cutters make history and win 4 consecutive little 500s? The entire team returning from a year ago.
And you asked about sets. That's Steve Sharp. You're looking at Clayton right now, but I know Steve Sharp is the rider for Phi Delta. I think he'll be their sprinter. So what he's looking at right now is his last set, perhaps before the sprint. We're 25 laps out here on 175.
Phi Delta Theta, Beta Theta Pi. The Cutters.
25 laps to go. Make that 24.
Beta Theta Pi, the Cutters.
Everybody looking around, trying to maintain that safe position, looking at when they're going to do their exchanges. The coach is really communicating with the riders right now.
Phi Gamma Delta.
So Dylan, how much of a variable do you think this rain can be in the sprint?
As we be watching
Well, I think it slows the track down a little bit, but I think we're going to still see a pretty exciting sprint. The other thing that I think is going to be interesting is we don't have as much wind as we've normally seen in past years. I think it's going to be harder for riders to pass on the outside. So if it does come down to a sprint finish, look for the rider to take it from the front. So you'll actually see the sprint starting out of turn 2 and all the way down the backside and finishing it off into 3 and 4.
I absolutely agree with you on that. I think in this year's sprint with the rain, I think we'll see people trying to lead it on the white lap, 1 lap out, and just take it the entire last lap.
By sides with an exchange. To Beta Theta.
Yeah, great exchange by both teams there. Beta Theta really putting out an effort to put his teammate back as far as possible to the front of the peloton. Phi Delta Theta looks like they're also coming in to do an exchange. Cutters also coming in to do an exchange. And then we see Fiji there. We still haven't heard confirmation whether they're on the lead lap or not, but maybe they're also doing an exchange.
See him with a little signal to the pit. Yeah, he's coming in. It's a rider exchange, so keep that bike.
Phi Delta with an exchange. Cutters bypass the exchange.
Cutters were looking at an exchange right there, but just timing wasn't right. There was a lot of traffic.
For one final time, thanks to corporate sponsors, B97.
Good set by that Phi Delta rider. I think that's Steve Sharp.
Finish line, Pizza X, Canary Cycleware, U.S. Army ROTC, INU.
I think we'll get to the finale.
Displey US LLC.
You know that's what everybody wants.
Well, look here.
The Student Media Group.
We've got, you're right, Dylan, we've got a little gap.
Yeah, we have a little gap here. Clayton's going to come in and do that exchange. Delta Tau Delta is going to go. Oh, look, it's the fake. They did the fake there. They did the fake, 20 laps to go. Delta Tau Delta, Clayton from Cutters really going for it.
20 laps to go.
You know what's interesting here is Delta Tau Delta riders basically didn't really wait around for Clayton. He's opened a gap. I don't know if that was the smartest move unless he plans on riding away from the race by himself.
He's coming in for an exchange.
Team number 7.
He's coming in for an exchange, but there's no...
Okay, there he is. Teammate out.
There's really no pack, and the Cutters are staying on the front right now.
Phi Delta Theta is on the front of the pack trying to chase. And see, here's the chaos. Here is where the action starts. We've got 19 laps to go.
In the wind and the rain and the mud and the cinders.
And they're all strung out, and you know Cutters are trying to get an exchange in. We've seen their rider out on the track a couple times now, but the other teams have marked him so well, and making a very difficult situation for the Cutters to get an exchange in. Delta Tau Delta just doing an excellent job of marking him.
Now Feldman will pass it off.
I think this is a key exchange for the Cutters because, you know, actually Clayton did a lot of damage. He made the other teams really chase hard.
Feldman off the bike, Schroeder on. The leader right now, Delta Tau, James Cartwright.
Phi Delta Theta chasing. We see Michael Schroeder basically bridging that gap. It's almost as if we could have a 3-rider breakaway forming right here. If some of the other teams aren't attentive right now, they could see the podium, the top 3 riders basically riding away right now.
You can really see Delta Tau Delta, their pace has slowed a little bit, whereas the Cutters that are really moving, and I think you're going to see it come back together.
Yeah, you can see that. You can see Michael there. He's basically going to make contact with Delta Tau Delta.
And Phi Delta are on the chase. The question will be, when the Cutters catch Delta Tau Delta, they've dropped Phi Delta. They've established a little gap on Phi Delta now, the team in white. And it's just a question of, do you keep going? Does
I
he
say
pull
he
through?
keeps going.
And
He
he's
keeps
up.
going. Just keep going. Drill it. This is your chance to blow the race wide open.
Excellent move there by Michael Schroeder, putting the other teams in all kinds of difficulty, just moving on through.
Continuing to move on the back stretch.
You know, I was surprised Delta was actually able to hold his wheel right there.
Well, you can see his mouth's wide open, right? Everybody's just digging deep.
And see, Cutters can lay it all out right now with Michael because they still have Eric waiting.
Yeah, and they've dropped Phi Delta Theta, so Phi Delta has been dropped right now.
Yeah, Blackie Bulls is going to come in and do an exchange.
But they're a lap down.
And the Cutters are going to exchange as well.
Cutters is exchanging. Delta Tau Delta not exchanging. That was an interesting tactic there.
He's going to have to, though, because I just think he's absolutely gassed. He has been in the hurt locker.
Zachary
he's
Lusk
need to come in.
on the bike for the Cutters.
So Zachary's job right now is he's got to close the gap down to Phi Delta Theta. He's going to go all the way around him, not even going to wait. He's going to bridge right up to Delta Tau Delta. It looks like Delta Tau Delta is going to do an exchange here.
So here, coming down toward exchange.
It puts
Leonard will bring it in.
It puts Zach in a great position to just keep the heat on. You know, it's amazing. Cutters is really making everybody work for it right now.
Nick Leonard on the bike for Delta Tau.
Both Nick Leonard and Phi Delta being forced to chase right now.
All right, I'm with you. This is absolutely what the Cutters want. They're off the front, and you've got Phi Delta and Delta Tau Delta trying to close. That's a Delta rider there in red.
He's got to close that gap. Looks like Phi Kappa Psi stuck in the middle there, no man's land. They're going to come in and do an exchange.
So the Delta rider's got that clean jersey. I think he's got some fresh legs.
Yeah, there's first, second, and third right there. His coach is telling him, go, 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 close that gap.
13 laps to go. Really, there's no time to wait. He's got to close it.
Leonard working as hard as he can. Trying to catch Zachary Lusk and the Cutters, who have won 3 straight Little 500s, looking to set a record with their 4th consecutive victory in the Little 500.
Looks like Nick Leonard's going to make contact. He's going to bridge back up to Zach from Cutters.
And they've dropped the 3rd team.
Well, but look right behind.
He's digging.
Right there. So we're going to have basically your top 3 riders come together. The question is, do you exchange or do you wait for the sprint? If Cutters exchanges right now, maybe the Delta Tau Delta rider and Phi Delta Theta just go for it. Maybe they don't wait for Eric Young.
Let's see if anyone's out in the Cutters pit.
Eric Young has established himself, and you've called him, Jason, the big man on campus. So now with 12 laps to go, everything is in play.
Eric's the sprinter, but I see Clayton. You're right. You're absolutely right, Rich. I see Eric Young coming out in the pit.
Yep, he's going to do the exchange.
I take that back.
No, it's
That's
Clayton Feldman.
Delta Tau Delta's not exchanging, and neither is Phi Delta Theta. Those two are going to try to work together and get rid of Clayton.
Clayton Feldman has the Cutters' opportunity in his hands to try to catch up.
Zach did a great job there of really putting all the other teams on the defensive.
Nick Savinsky for Phi Delta's trying to drill it.
Clayton just looks nice and calm and collected. He looks really good on the bike. I think he's going to be able to close that gap. It looks like Phi Delta Theta and Delta Tau Delta are going to come in and do an exchange right now, which to be honest, if they don't do a good exchange, it's going to set Clayton up perfectly.
Absolutely critical. That's not the Phi Delta Theta sprinter. That's not Sharp getting on the bike.
Both exchanges clean.
Yep, Phi Delta Theta is really going to have to dig here to get Clayton's wheel. Delta Tau Delta's off the back. They just lost about 10 meters. They're going to have to really dig. The only thing that's going to help them is the Black Key Bulls rider stuck in the middle. He can basically use him to leapfrog back up.
So we continually get this. We've got 2 teams up, 1 team down. You know, it's just a question of, do you keep the pace hot and drop that number 3 team? Or are you trying to set something up for the next set?
That's right.
Next rider.
That's right. We basically have a 3-team race with 10 laps to go.
Feldman trying to capture his 3rd Little 500 championship as a member of the Cutters, and that would put him in very elite company.
Well, look, you know, we have our riders on the lead lap. The three leading teams have all slowed down, but what's happening behind them is that Fiji and Sigma Chi right now and Pi Beta Pi are really working hard. Sorry, Beta Theta Pi are really working hard to chase back up. If they're not careful, they could basically have this thing all come back together with 9 to go.
But it's Black Key Bulls, Fiji's, and Sigma.
Oh, this is really getting fun. So what we're not seeing is the sprinters aren't on the bikes yet. So Hans's prediction, I think, my prediction, you know, that we'll hop on 5-7 laps to go is true. This is all about the setup, man.
And the big 3 are out in front. 8 to go.
8 laps to go. We got Sigma Chi go by there. They don't even care because everybody knows that he's a lap down. Everybody's looking at each other.
And looking, a pat on the back from Black Key Bulls.
Yeah, basically.
Delta Tau.
The rider from Black Key Bull knows that he's not racing for the lead, but his buddy from Delta Tau Delta is, so he's saying, hey, good luck in the sprint. We have these 3 riders marking each other right now. But again, like I said, if they're not careful, the race is going to come up from behind them and catch them off guard. It's going to get
starting to happen right now.
It's going to get really confusing here because we're getting traffic. It looks like we have 5 together now. Grey Goat Cycling coming up on the inside.
Yeah, I don't think the other teams expected Fiji to catch on and Grey Goat Cycling. And there's a little bit of confusion whether Fiji's are on the lead lap or not, but Grey Goats certainly are.
So now we have Beta Theta Pi also back up into the front. So now we have a 5-team race again. You know, it's interesting, if those 3 teams, Cutters, Phi Delta Theta, and Sigma Chi had stayed on the front, they would have actually maybe ridden away from the race.
The information I'm getting is that Fiji's not on the lead lap, so I think we're safe with the group.
So I think there are your 5 teams with 6 laps to go.
Or Beta Theta Pi right back in it.
Setting up for the sprint. An event that started in 1951, the 60th edition of the Little 500. In the mud and the cinders. Delta Taus. John Marvel going to come in for an exchange.
And the question is who's not going to do the exchange? Who's going to try to take advantage of this? Oh, look at that. Delta Tau Delta, horrible exchange.
Cutters get an exchange off.
We've got a botched exchange by Delta Tau Delta, which is really, really going to hurt them.
With 5 laps to go. But look at Phi Delta Theta drilling it right now, not doing an exchange, trying to take advantage of the fact that Cutters just did one.
The man to watch.
Eric Young, calm, cool, and collected. He knows what his job is.
And he's closing it because Phi Delta, they're going to do another exchange right now. That's what happened with Phi Delta Theta. They've got this gap. They're going to get their sprinter on Sharp. So that's West bringing it into Sharp for Phi Delta.
Oh, bad exchange by
flip. The track has become treacherous. 2 poor exchanges. The Cutters got a good one off, and they have their best rider.
4 laps to go. Cutters, Phi Delta.
It's the pedals, what we're seeing. I think the pedals are wet. And what you're seeing is people hopping on the bike, not able to get that foot on the pedal. There will be no more exchanges, I anticipate, though. We're 4 laps to go, and Eric Young's on the front. Beta Theta Pi in second. Phi Delta Theta right there as well.
Gray Goat Cycling is actually going to close the gap also. And look at this, Delta Tel Delta has regained the group. We have a 5-rider sprint, 3 laps to go.
But can anybody beat Eric Young of the Cutters at crunch time?
You can do your racing there, please. The Cutters in the lead. The Cutters in.
Eric is clearly confident. He's riding at the front right now.
And then Gray Goat Cycling.
It's a great time to find out, isn't it? It's Steven Sharp, who's one missing out for Phi Delta Theta. He's going to be the sprinter against Eric Young. It's a great time to just kind of test what he has.
We'll have 2 laps left.
2 laps to go.
Down to the final 2.
Phi Delta Theta on the front. Eric Young with Cutters sitting comfortably in second. You see Pi Beta Pi in third. Gray Goat Cycling and Delta Tel Delta basically battling for position, battling for that wheel.
Young drafting off Sharp.
There's Fiji.
We're going to get the full race in.
And it's going to be
still in the mix. We're going to get the white flag here. Phi Delta Theta.
Let's be watching here.
The Cutters, Beta Theta Pi, Gray Goat.
Here we go, 1 lap.
Like I said, Eric is going to take this from turn 2. And he's really going to benefit from the fact that the Fiji rider is going to go there. I'm sure he won't wait.
Sharp
He's going to go right
chase.
by him. He's going to go right by him on the backstretch. Here's the sprint.
Young on the outside, creating separation. Cutters looking for 4 straight. Young into the final turn. And history in the 60th edition of the Little 500 goes to the Cutters.
Unbelievable.
That's the 11th victory for the Cutters. The most victories of any team in the Little 500.
They executed flawlessly today.
They led at our little intermission due to Mother Nature and came back. Their exchanges at the end were cleaner than everybody's, and Eric Young has another gear.
Unbelievable. What a dynasty. You know, I got to hand it to some of the other teams. Delta Tel Delta had a horrible exchange with 5 to go and was able to regain contact. Gray Goat Cycling, also amazing. Phi Delta Theta, you got to hand it to them. They were one of the most aggressive teams today. They got second place, but they certainly raced for the win, despite Eric Young and Cutter's dominance of this race. I'm sure second place isn't what they wanted, but they've got to be proud about the way that they rode this race. You know, it's going to be questionable, was Fiji on the lead lap or not? That might have had some impact on how the finish played out, because, you know, Eric really went around the Fiji rider out of turn 2. And it made it harder for Phi Delta Theta to come around. We have our unofficial finish order.
So you've got the Cutters picking up their 11th win. Phi Delta Theta with a great showing. Steven Sharp, the sprinter for Phi Delta Theta. He'll be back next year, as will Eric Young. Both juniors.
The entire team that comes back for the Cutters with the yellow jerseys as marked men pull off the repeat.
Yeah, you know, Eric's acceleration when he started his acceleration out of turn 2 was just so much more than any of the other teams had. I mean, they were completely crushed.
Another look at our last lap.
So as I think we talked about, I think he led it across the start. Well, there's this checkered flag. We didn't get the entire last lap. But Eric took it really from 199 on and just established that he wanted to win from the front.
Yep.
Here's Hans.
Congratulations, Jason. Unbelievable race. You guys have shown that you can win in any condition. How do you keep doing this year after year?
I don't know. I mean, we had a meeting at before school even started back in August, laid it out. We actually even talked about this strategy back then, and we had our goals. We hit them. It was full focus on the race, not so much on series events. And the guys, you know, never let adversity get in their way with the red flag earlier, and then still having to come back out. Really, all the teams, no one gave up. A lot of good efforts out there.
Unbelievable. You guys continue to set history, make history year after year. What are you going to do next year?
We got 3 guys coming back. We lose Clayton, and we have Eric and Zach and Michael and Sam, our rookie. So try it again.
Congratulations.
Thank you, man.
Is that almost as good as 97?
Well, a wonderful, wonderful performance by all riders included, but the head of the class again, the Cutters.
The Flanders! The Flanders!
Yeah, no question. What Jason said about the meetings and the chemistry that they have is really just phenomenal. For them, it's about having close coaches and close riders, knowing the race, and then just going out and performing, which they've done.
In less than ideal weather and circumstances today. Not only the weather to fight, but the stop, and then also not knowing so much of how long the race was going to go.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a big unknown for all of us today, wasn't it? But that's really what makes me, feel like it is a deserved win. They led at 100, they led throughout the race, and then they led on 199 and across the checkered flag. So it's pretty hard to argue with that result. It was just a tremendous performance today.
I think what we saw out there was the fact that the Cutters weren't scared to race from the front. They have a great sprinter, but they were willing to take control and let everybody else try to take the race away from them. And we saw that. They won from the front. They almost would have won the race if they canceled it in the middle because they had a huge gap. It was their race. They took it. They won.
And they make history. Champions 4 straight times for the Cutters. You have been watching HDNet's exclusive coverage of the men's Little 500. The executive producer of HDNet Sports and the producer of today's show, Daryl Ewald. Today's show directed by Hank Lena. Features produced and written by Chris Taylor. Our production manager, Chris Markwell. HDNet Engineering, Dan Neighbors, Andy Miranda, and Jeff Carmen. Special thanks to all the great staff and volunteers from the Indiana University Student Foundation. And for all of my broadcast partners, Jason Sonnenborn, Dylan Casey, and Hans Arneson, I'm Rich Cellini. We leave you now with some of the faces that have made the Little 500 so special for the last 60 years.
The Little 500 to me is my college experience.
It becomes your life.
It is absolutely breathtaking to walk out into that stadium for the first time.
It's really one of the only events that lets you be a rock star.
Hearing your name above the crowds in a crowd that big is just, it's incredible.
It's just an intensely emotional event. It comes at a time in your life when you're learning about yourself, you're learning about discipline, you're learning about the rewards of hard work.
Everything you had to give up, it's all worthwhile on race day.
The Little 500 is pursuing a passion, making great friends, and following through on your dreams.
When you got finished, you felt like you'd really done something worthwhile.
It leaves more of an impact on you than you could ever leave on that race.
It's learning how to overcome your own doubts.
It's really something you take with you forever, and the lessons that you learn, you can apply to anything you do.
It's just so many things to so many people, and it's truly an honor to be a part of something that incredible.